They're just skipping over this anyway. Just skipping over it.
Puts you in the mood, doesn't it, Mark?
Just skipping over it, Wade. It puts you in the mood. But enough with the Batman theme.
Well, it's not holiday music, but it might as well be, because that is going to foreshadow one of the things we're talking about today on our annual holiday and Christmas and Hanukkah show and gift guide and all the rest of that stuff.
It's not a Kwanzaa show?
It could be if you want it to be. We don't really have any Kwanzaa product. I don't know that there is any Kwanzaa product out there really, but there it is. So we're gonna have an awesome show today. We got interviews, segments like a real talk show, giveaways, and tons of product.
Now, when I walk into our little recording area and Wade has stacked up everything we're going to talk about, 51 weeks out of the year, it's just a bunch of, Blu-rays and DVDs.
Yes.
But for the gift show, it's like an entire mountain of multi-Blu-ray box sets and gigantic ornate packaging.
It's pretty insane.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty insane amount of stuff. But it's it's fun. I mean, people offer us the stuff to cover, and we're like, okay, that sounds like it'd be great for the show.
So wait, do what they do on talk shows. Since you mentioned talk shows, why don't you tease the interviews we'll be rolling into the show?
Well, our good friend Alonso Duralde, fellow member of LAFCA, film critic for The Wrap, and author of Have Yourself a Movie Little Christmas, does a little segment for us every year because Alonso is the Christmas expert. That is his field of expertise. There is no one in the world of movies who knows more about Christmas movies than Alonso Duralde.
Jesus does. Because it's really his holiday.
Okay, I'll grant you that. So we got a little snippet from Alonso. We also have interviews. 3 interviews. One with our good friend. Another 2 of them are fellow LAFCA members as well. See, we tap the well, right? Our good friend Charles Solomon has a book out. We talked to him about his book, and we also talked to our good friend Leonard Maltin, who has also a book out, but who's stepping into a new phase of his career because this is the last edition of the book. Great chat with Leonard Maltin. And then we are also going to talk to legendary veteran television director Asad Khalada about WKRP in Cincinnati.
Yeah!
Yes. Asad Khalada, of course, one of the great sitcom directors of all time, did tons of episodes of Who's the Boss, and countless other great shows. It not only did lots of episodes of The Facts of Life, but also did the Facts of Life movie. Remember The Facts of Life in Paris? That's Asad.
We have him to blame for that?
And Asad directed the majority of the shows in the first season of WKRP, and then several shows in other seasons going forward. And some of them are just the most classic of the shows. And he was one of the directors who really, if not the director, who set the tone for the show. He really kind of sculpted it in that first season and the characters and the whole style of the thing. And so we had a good chat with Asad Khalada about WKRP in Cincinnati, looking back on one of the legendary shows of all time, also now out on DVD.
All 4 seasons.
All 4 seasons. And, of course, Batman. We're going to be talking momentarily about the long-awaited arrival of the Batman television series on DVD and Blu-ray. We have it on Blu-ray. And I've been having so much fun with that show. Although I have to say the ultraviolet implementation of it, which I've been enjoying on the iPad, I sort of let it follow me wherever I go, and I just put an episode on. It's a little wonky.
Really?
Yeah, it's a little wonky.
Are you surprised?
Well, I'm not terribly surprised because here's the thing. Television series on ultraviolet are still really imperfect. A movie is one thing. It finds the feed. But when you've got a series, somehow the ultraviolet implementation is keeping track of a lot of different episodes. There are a lot of different streams, right? So your little window when you go to Flixster or Vudu or whatever, and it's just a movie, that it knows it goes to look for that movie somewhere. When you bring up Batman, it suddenly has 3 seasons worth of episodes, and it's got to figure out where there are network errors and things crash, and it's imperfect. They'll sort it out. They always do, but for the time being,
ultraviolet has been around for too long.
Well,
at this point, for you to say they're going to sort it out at some point.
It's not an ultraviolet implementation. I think it's just the server. I think it's the Warner Brothers servers.
Right.
I think ultraviolet's only as good as what's coming off of the drives.
So wait, should we get into it now? What should we do now?
Let's get into it right now. And we're going to start. We've been talking about Batman, so let's continue to talk about Batman. So here it is in my hands. Obviously, it's not a video podcast, so all I can do is describe it to you. It's a nice. It's a box.
Wait, it says press here on the side. So press.
Yes,
what happens?
exactly.
It says press here.
It says press here.
Yeah.
That's what it does.
That's perfect. That's all you need.
Until the battery wears out. And then it's an off-the-shelf thing, right? This is just strictly for the shelf. Limited edition. Ours is number 49,200 and something of 95,000. So we're halfway through there. Anyway, the box is the standard. How do I fit this on the shelf with everything else that I have? Box form factor, which we all know: Lawrence of Arabia, Ben-Hur, Willy Wonka, and the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. They all have that
big
same
rectangular.
It's a big rectangular thing,
box.
And it's like a half size of a coffee table book. Anyway, folds open here, right? The little Batman logo, and then we've got the Biff Kapow sock thing folds open, and on one side the Adam West scrapbook, which is great. And an episode booklet, and then the cases that have all the different episodes in them on Blu-ray, and then a couple of little toys here on the other side. Mark, why don't you tell the people what the toys are?
Well, we have 44 cards. Now, I think this might be reproductions of the Topps cards that came out, I think, in the 60s. These aren't playing cards because there's only 44 of them, although it looks like a playing card pack, and it is...
Yep.
It's sealed, but and I'm not going to open it because Wade's going to want to open it. Do you want me to open this?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to play with them later.
Okay.
And with the car.
Okay. So, but I believe these might be reproductions of the famous Topps cards from, I think it was the 60s. There's 44 of them.
Correct. Very true.
And a little die-cast car.
And it is a Hot Wheels car. This is the actual Hot Wheels Batmobile. Isn't that great?
Wow.
It's the coolest car ever. So yeah, the show.
How does the show look, Wade? How does the show look?
I'll tell you. I mean, Warner Brothers does not disappoint when it comes to mastering their stuff on Blu-ray. The show looks fantastic. It looks fantastic. It's always interesting too. We've talked about this with a lot of different TV shows. It takes them sometimes a while to establish the characters and kind of get it. No, Batman was Batman right out of the gate. They had everything there right in the pilot episode. They had the poles and the button and the bat phone and the whole thing. Commissioner Gordon and Chief O'Hara. It's all there. It's all there.
Because Chief O'Hara was not in the comic.
No, that's an invention for the television series, but it's all there. I mean, and every episode remastered, glorious color. And you remember, Batman was a big deal. It was one of those first TV shows that was in really bright color. Color TVs were coming in, and man, they really worked the color. And it's Burt Ward is just so funny. He's just so hyperactive. He's so enthused to go fight bad guys in every episode. It's a lot of fun. And of course, I can't resist the Batgirl episodes. I mean, when I was a kid and I would see those shows, and in the animated beginning when they're running, suddenly you see her on her little motorcycle. She comes in, kicks those guys. Yes, Yvonne Craig.
You're in.
Over. I'm in. So in. Loved Yvonne Craig.
32-page episode guide also. There's a bunch of Blu-ray extras, over 3 hours of Blu-ray extras. These, I'm not saying...
No extras in the Ultraviolet implementation.
Right.
It's just the episodes, yeah.
I'm not saying all these extras are great, but the thing is that you're going to watch them all because it's like Batman. You just sort of have to. It's like candy.
It is. It's great. It's fantastic.
How can you not buy this?
It's
okay.
Fantastic.
Batman, we love it.
It's really great stuff. I mean, there's like a...
we have
thing
so
on the
much to go through.
I know
so much to go through.
Featurettes galore. Okay,
box sets.
So let's plow through a few more box sets real quickly. More complete series. Pee-wee's Playhouse, finally on Blu-ray. The complete series.
That's important. Blu-ray. That's important.
It's important. Although, does Pee-wee's Playhouse really benefit from being in high def?
But it should be.
It should be. But boy, you can see the makeup.
Well, that's fine. it just look, it's
man.
Shout Factory. We love Shout Factory.
Yeah.
It just shows a respect for the material.
It does,
and the importance of it.
And lots of new interviews, of course, because they're it's a legendary show, and everyone's gone on to do bigger and better things. So yes, we've got a fantastic all 45 episodes in high definition, and this thing won like Emmy awards too, which kind of blows my mind. But yes, so the complete Pee-wee's Playhouse. In two, basically it's a box set that contains two regular DVD keep cases. Each of them has 4 discs, so 8 discs total 45 episodes on 8 discs. And this one is a nice form factor that just pops right in the shelf, and you're good.
Yep, and it's one of the great shows, which is true of a lot of children's shows, that they were children's shows, but they also appealed to adults in ways that children just didn't understand.
Absolutely true. Absolutely.
Just didn't understand. Blu-ray, all good, the complete series True Blood. So this is 7 seasons, all on Blu-ray, big honkin' box set, which would fit on your shelf, by the way. It's not a big rectangle. So that's good. And also at the same time, from the good folks at HBO, we have the complete Blu-ray series of The Sopranos. So I just hit the mic.
Of course, it's Christmas.
That's a Christmas hit the mic.
That's it.
So The Sopranos Blu-ray set has 5 hours of features, and it has 2 round tables with the cast and crew.
And it's about the size of a table. It's big.
No, it's big, but it's the form factor allows it to fit on your shelf.
Yes,
which is nice. And there's 25 audio commentaries. Of course, a lot of these are old from the old Blu-ray versions, but still, it's a great show, classic show. It's one of the shows that launched not only HBO and the new iteration of HBO as a producer of original content, but also it helped activate an entire generation of new shows on Showtime and Cinemax, even with the Nick, and also on basic cable. And it's great. It's a great show. And this, along with True Blood. Now, True Blood, never a big fan of True Blood.
Yeah, it's got a following.
This thing kind of came in for a very slow landing.
It's got a following. We're not part of that following.
It has a great following, though. It's got a lot of great extras. There's 80 episodes on 33 discs. A lot of extras here. I would just, obviously, The Sopranos is the one that you're going to want to revisit.
Yep.
Because it's just such a great show. Each hour is like a little mini movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So from the good folks at HBO, we have The Sopranos complete series on Blu-ray and True Blood complete series on Blu-ray. It's great for The Sopranos or True Blood. The Sopranos good for the 30, 40, 50-somethings.
Yeah.
True Blood good for the 20-somethings.
Oh, there you go.
And the 30-somethings who never stop being a 20-something.
Look at you. You're like a retail salesman or something. You're telling that's for you and that's for your daughter, and you're nailing all the demos. That's good.
Do I want this way?
That's what you do.
Do I want this?
No, you don't.
Because you want it.
No. Well, maybe. Okay, so classic television comedy. Great television comedy. We got 3 complete series here, and you can't go wrong with any of them. I mean, these are 3 great shows. Most important of them all is Sergeant Bilko, the complete series.
Hang on. Before you talk about Sergeant Bilko,
yes.
Why is that the most important one when it is the one that our listeners will have least heard of?
Because Phil Silvers is hilarious. And I didn't realize it until I started watching this, and I was like, oh my gosh, our friend Phil reminds me of Phil Silvers.
No, he doesn't.
Look,
How?
Come on. That's Phil. Tell me that's not Phil.
He wishes.
He's funny like Phil Silvers. He looks like Phil Silvers.
But Phil's bald. Phil Silvers not bald.
Well,
our friend Phil bald.
Okay.
Our friend Phil short.
Well,
our friend Phil famous and on television and has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, I think.
Funny show. Now, mind you, this is a combination of the Phil Silvers show. And Sergeant Bilko, which is, these things kind of migrated back then. It was sort of like the Jackie Gleason show and the Honeymooners, and, a lot of these things sort of play part and parcel of both. So all you got to know is every single solitary second of Phil Silvers playing Sergeant Bilko is here, and it is absolutely great. So you get some great extras here, some episode commentaries, Phil Silvers interviews. And there's even an episode from the new Phil Silvers show, which didn't really do so well, and footage from the 1959 television special Keep in Step, and it's great. I mean, there's so many, 142 episodes here. It is just one of the all-time, and this just never gets old. It never gets old. If you want military comedy, if you enjoy that subgenre, get yourself the complete Gomer Pyle, get yourself the complete. Sergeant Bilko, right here.
Right.
And then the other one with...
CPO Sharkey.
No, not CPO Sharkey. No. With Ernest Borgnine. The PT boat thing.
PT 109. Petticoat Junction.
No. Why am I drawing a blank?
Don't stop the recording. Beverly Hillbillies.
No.
Okay, first of all, let me tell you something. Now, after you're done laughing at Sergeant Bilko TV show with Phil Silvers, you should... completely destroy that good feeling by watching the 1996 motion picture Sergeant Bilko, starring Steve Martin as Sergeant Bilko.
McHale's Navy. Thank you.
Do you remember the Sergeant Bilko movie?
Yes.
With Steve Martin as Sergeant Bilko.
Oh, that was dreadful.
Dan Aykroyd and Phil Hartman.
Not good.
Not good.
Not good. Also, great television comedy. The Jeffersons, the complete series. The Deluxe edition. See that? As in deluxe apartment. Yeah. Of course, the Jeffersons was the first major show to spin off from All in the Family. I think Maude was the first actual show to spin off from All in the Family, but Jeffersons was the first one that spun off and became an even bigger hit in its own right. I mean, at a certain point, it was like you remember when Laverne and Shirley spun off from Happy Days, and then suddenly Laverne and Shirley is the number one show on the air. You're like, oh my gosh, how'd that happen?
Did you hear that?
Same thing here. This became the number one show on television.
Did you hear that Norman Lear wants to redo All in the Family? Did you read this?
Oh, dear.
Norman Lear's like 92 years old.
Yeah.
He wants to do a new version of All in the Family.
Why?
It would be completely separate from the original show, which is iconic and one of the all-time great, not just sitcoms, but shows.
And adapted from a British show, we should point out. The original is a British show.
Adapted and improved, by the way, from the British show.
Yeah.
But, this is great. It premiered in 1975.
Yeah, so the Jeffersons comes in with 6 cases and just a gob of discs. I mean, it's like 30 discs or something. It's outrageously cool. And this thing ran for 11 seasons. 11 seasons.
It doesn't seem that long.
I know, but man, it just kept on trucking, and it's just a great show. It's a really terrific show. It ages well, and you thoroughly enjoy it. Anyway, lots of extra features on here. Bonus stuff includes the regular original Moving On Up featurette, and a couple of like a never before released episode from the Marla Gibbs spin-off series Checking In, which when they spun off the maid character Florence, that
didn't last very
long. But you at least kind of realize that I totally, when I always count up all the spin-off series from All in the Family, that's one I always forget about. You forget sometimes the spin-offs of the spin-offs.
But the spin-offs of the spin-offs, not everyone worked. Like Checking In didn't work.
No, not at all. Not at all. And there were a few others too. I'm trying to think.
By the way, the Jeffersons. We have to say, this thing they used the N-word in this show.
Oh, I know.
They
all
used
the
the
time.
honky in this show. I
Yeah.
mean, it was wild. This is now. As the show went into later seasons, they were definitely political with racism and suicide, and they even did an episode on like adult illiteracy.
Yep.
But some of the language sort of smoothed out in the later seasons when it got really popular.
And they also have a bonus.
At the beginning, it was really out there.
They also have a bonus episode here of a show from 1984 called ER, not the ER that we know with George Clooney, but ER with Elliot Gould, and Sherman Hemsley showed up as George Jefferson in that.
So the Jeffersons,
kind of weird.
A, funny, B, a little piece of history.
And then a show that I didn't enjoy as a kid, but which I sort of appreciated a little more now. All 143 whopping episodes from these 6 seasons of Mr. Ed, complete series, Talking Horse. This thing was a big deal at the time. People tuned in every week to see Horace go Wilbur.
I did.
And that became a kind of a catchphrase. It was, early 1960s, kind of in that Ozzie and Harriet period. Leave It to Beaver. It's in that moment before things segued into all the crazy, funky color, groovy shows like Get Smart and Batman and I Dream of Jeannie. And so it's an interesting show from that period, but it's not like those shows. It's more far-fetched. It's a freaking talking horse, but it caught it captivated the world. It captivated America. So 143 episodes of this thing they somehow cranked out. Kind of amazing.
This is sort of like, it's a little like Francis the Talking Mule. It's a little like My Mother the Car. You've got these
Mother the Car. There you go.
These shows and movies that over the years have given birth to like talking animal. Like, what it is? Babe. Remember Babe?
There you go.
Babe is like the beloved, Oscar-nominated, beautiful, wonderful version of talking animals.
Yeah. Totally.
I think Mr. Ed was a little more
true
childish.
Yep.
Not childish, but it was for kids.
Yeah,
I loved it actually. I mean the show's a little old for me, but when I was a kid, it was in reruns. So
Mr. Ed. I mean, it's not that funny, but there's kind of a nostalgic sheen to it that's a little bit fun. So that complete series is out. Mr. Ed, 143 episodes. Can't believe they made it that many. Anyway, never felt like it was that long. I always felt like there were like 10 episodes I kept seeing over and over. Anyway. All right. And then real quickly, speaking of old shows from that particular period, the complete series of Annie Oakley is also out from VCI. This is an interesting case too. It's like a kind of a roundish, it almost looks like a photon torpedo-shaped case. The series Annie Oakley is long forgotten by most people, but this also had kind of a following at the time. It starred Gail Davis, who is wonderful in the part, and she had done a bunch of films with Gene Autry, and she had a bit of a kind of a semi-feature career, and she landed the part of Annie Oakley on television. And really nails it. Quite nice. So the show ran in the 1950s, and it's light Western fare for television, kind of on there, in the same vein with the Lone Ranger and the Rifleman and a lot of those things. So it was a period when Westerns were hot on television. A lot of great extras here. You get some of the original commercials. You get photo galleries and memorabilia and publicity stuff, and a nice little documentary called Pigtails and Six Shooters: The Making of TV's Annie Oakley, which has a lot of interviews with the people who worked on the show and television and archival historians, and it's really good. So that's a fun little flashback to the 50s as well.
We have a couple of vintage ones, 2 vintage ones and a newer one for, let's see, maybe the dad or the older uncle in your family for Christmas. We have the complete series of Secret Agent. This was a show from the 60s. There's actually a couple of. One was Danger Man, and Danger Man lasted for 3 seasons, and then was relaunched with Patrick McGoohan as Secret Agent. That was from 1964 to 1966. So this is Secret Agent, 17 DVDs, by the way, not Blu-rays, the complete series from the guys over at ITV. Did a good job with this show. The show actually, if you look at some of these, they're pretty stylish. They're not quite as stylish as like noir. They're a little bit too modern to be noir. But there's some interesting plots in here. Pretty like complex kind of government conspiracy type plots in here. It's all about the CIA and the MI5 and that kind of stuff. So Patrick McGoohan, who would later go on to star in The Prisoner, of course, he travels the world and capturing criminals all over the world. And there's a lot of good stuff in here. I like Secret Agent, actually. I had rediscovered it a little bit thanks to this DVD box set.
Which this stuff was originally out from A&E ages ago when they released, they had Secret Agent Man and the Saint and the Avengers. A&E used to run all that British stuff. And then those licenses expired, and the A&E and all that stuff, A&E library essentially was acquired by Cinedigm. And I guess, so now, ITV Studios is releasing this stuff through Timeless, who releases all the Western stuff we talk about, Big Valley and all that, and it's great. It's finally a really nice. I wouldn't mind this on Blu-ray either. I really wouldn't.
Daniel Boone, which I believe has also been out before.
It has. This is better. This is all nicely remastered.
It really is. Well, this is the
Fox.
50th anniversary. This is from Fox. 36 discs, 6 seasons. Daniel Boone, played by, of course, Fess Parker. Ask your parents.
Yep.
Fess Parker is like.
He played Davy Crockett.
He played
too.
Davy Crockett. That's it.
And
it's weird.
Boone.
That's like J.J. Abrams directing Star Trek and Star Wars.
Right?
Blah.
Nah.
Anyway, it's on DVD.
Yeah. Anyway,
Which was on Blu-ray.
This was out previously, but this is 6 seasons of this too. My gosh, crazy, right? How long these shows ran. Never felt like they ran that long.
Speaking of shows we didn't realize ran that long, Reno 911 was on for 6 seasons of the show.
Don't get this show.
You know what? Actually, well,
I know people love this show, but it's not funny.
It's a very well put together DVD set. It's like translucent a little bit. And I was not always a fan of the show, but I have to say that this show to me was sort of the proto Adult Swim. It was a little funky and culty and a little bit naughty and rude and a little bit out there. And it was it feels like this is the show that led to the sensibility that led to all the Adult Swim stuff you see.
It probably is.
Reno 911 was totally out there.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of great stuff in it. I think it lasted too long, but there's a bunch of special features, including profiles and audio commentaries and a bunch of outtakes, which are pretty funny. So if you love Reno 911, which was on Comedy Central, I'd go for it. The complete series, Reno 911. This should be on Blu-ray, quite frankly, but it is not.
And if you are a fan of Eric von Däniken and the Chariots of the Gods and the Outer Space Connection and all that stuff that I grew up with in another decade, long ago, well, of course, then you're probably a fan of the History Channel series Ancient Aliens, which ran for 6 seasons and is now out in a complete set. Ancient Aliens, the complete seasons 1 through 6. And it may still be on the air. Is Ancient Aliens still running? I didn't even look into that.
I don't know.
Well, anyway, I mean, if it is still running,
you know what? When I flip the channels, there are so many shows about aliens and the universe and alien conspiracies. And I was abducted by an alien.
Well.
My stepmother's an alien.
This is it may be coming back for a seventh season. So if it is, this is not the complete series. It continues to go, but this is every episode right up to now, including 12 that have never been on DVD before, and 82 episodes. That's like enough to just make your mind spin, so that you'll see aliens and evidence of ancient aliens and everything. We're the offspring of. It's like It's like Prometheus. We are actually the offspring of aliens. Wait, is it time for our first interview? Is it coming up soon? It is in just a moment.
Exciting.
I also want to mention The Wonder Years, which we reviewed some weeks ago. In that from Time Life.
Show me.
You have to get it from the.
Now, Time Life, their stuff
it comes in that giant heavy locker, right? It's a metal locker
that's hilarious.
case.
It's great. Come on, that's like some of the best packaging of the year. The Wonder Years comes in a big tan high school locker with a little.
There's one other title we're going to get to later that comes in a similar case, but this is arguably one of the best box set cases that we've ever had.
Oh yeah.
And The Wonder Years, of course, one of 3 shows that was significantly held up for a very, very long time for music rights. China Beach, the other one, WKRP. We're going to talk about momentarily the other one. So the Wonder Years is out there from Time Life. You got to go to the Time Life website to get that one. That's not available elsewhere. And before I get to WKRP and our interview with Asad Khalada, I want to make mention of the Hill Street Blues Complete Series box set.
Love this series.
7 seasons on this one. And I watched every single one of these episodes originally. And you know what? Watching them again now, it's like this show is so ahead of its time. So ahead of its time. Without this, obviously, forget about all the other Bochco shows that that spun off from it. But without this show, we wouldn't have Law and Order.
Law and Order, The Shield, or NYPD Blue, or all those shows.
We wouldn't even have like The West Wing, which very much is in keeping with the style of this show. You wouldn't have something like the Newsroom,
Homicide,
like Newsroom,
Homicide.
All of those things owe a huge debt to this particular series.
Because you have to understand, you're like, Hill Street Blues, that's really old, who cares? Well, all the directors and producers who wound up doing the shows that you love, they were influenced as kids by watching stuff like Hill Street Blues.
And Hill Street Blues changed television. It really did. It wasn't just that it was, yes, you had stuff like Dallas and, primetime soap operas.
Those are soapy. This was
they were
real
soapy.
Deal.
But this was not just with the old style was Bonanza, Big Valley, and Starsky and Hutch. You had a different episode every week, right? Different adventure, different mystery, so forth and so on, and then there's no sort of continuity. Hill Street Blues did the serialized thing, the soap opera thing, where there are these ongoing storylines. But it did it with this large ensemble cast and many different storylines, and it did a lot of cool things. Like having Daniel J. Travanti and what's her face in bed every evening. Every single episode ended with them.
Brunette, whose name I can't remember.
Every single episode ended with them in bed. Veronica Hamill. Every episode ended with them in bed, because they had an affair ongoing. She's DA. He's the police captain, but the feel of the show was so gritty and so authentic, and
totally different for the time.
So
people absolutely devoured this show,
and it's
so different
holds
and so
up.
great.
It so holds up.
And by the way, when I was in college, I for a semester I took piano.
Yep.
In college, and for my final in my piano class in college, I played and completely destroyed and butchered and was humiliated the Hill Street Blues theme song by Mike Post.
Nice, good man.
I did.
I learned to play that on the piano. Well, you get 4 commentaries here, only 4, but they're really good ones. Gag reel, which isn't much to speak of, and then a bunch of featurettes on the history of the show and interviews and the writing, what happened in the writer's room. It's first rate. This is legendary television. And now, Mark, we're going to talk about WKRP.
Yeah.
This show is amazing. We finally have WKRP in Cincinnati out.
On
4
DVD.
Seasons on DVD.
On DVD. Why, Wade?
Well, it was shot in video. It was shot in video.
So what?
Yeah,
a lot of stuff that's shot on video is
you want it on
Blu-ray.
Blu-ray. I know, I do too. Maybe eventually, but 4 seasons plus, on 4 different 3-disc boxes cases. and then a thin slimline case with the bonus features on it. And this is just a sensational series. It is so fantastic. The bonus features are, from the recent reunion, the Paley Center reunion. They recently did that. And then there's a couple of featurettes. So it's not much by way of the special features. But let's talk about the show. These characters...
It's all about the characters.
Are so unbelievably funny. They are so unbelievably funny. And some of the things that they did on this show were really incredibly daring. We're going to talk a little bit with Assad about one of his episodes, which is Less on a Ledge, one of the very first episodes. And, how they mixed up the funny with the serious, very much like All in the Family did. Very few shows actually could do that really effectively and consistently. And WKRP did it from the very beginning. But this eccentric bunch of people trying to make a ramshackle Cincinnati radio station run, and Howard Hessman is Johnny Fever, who is so funny week in and week out with his just disheveled, old 70s burned-out DJ persona. He just wants to rock and roll.
That's the thing. The humor came from the characters.
It's so good.
It didn't come from like the wacky situations necessarily. All the humor came from character.
There was in an age before, there was one episode here too, which is very much breaking the format, where the entire episode was not. It's normally a 3-camera show, right in front of a studio audience. This isn't, but there's one episode which was entirely shot like a documentary. Did you ever see this?
I don't remember.
Where there's a television show. This is before the reality show boom. Where there's a television show, and Herb Tarlick and his dysfunctional family have been chosen as a family. They're going to follow them around, and this is our all-American family. They made it onto some television show, and so the whole episode is that show of following around this all-American family, Herb Tarlick and his dysfunctional brood, the kids, the horrible kids, and the wife can't stand him, and it's brilliant. For example, there's part of it where they're like, okay, we're going to go to church now. It's Sunday. We're going to go to church. And Herb Tarlick's never been to church in his life, but they want to look all American and wholesome. So they get in the car and they take off. And you're seeing this in the camera from the truck following them. Are they trying to get away from us? Looks like they're speeding up. Let's catch up to them. And they catch up to them, and then they finally they're trying to lose them. Trying to lose the tail, and finally they can't lose them, so they stop and they go to church. All right, let's go in. It's a synagogue. Doors are shut. Sunday. It's that kind of stuff. It's just brilliant. It's just right off the wall. Brilliant satire. Anyway,
we've been waiting for this for literally years.
For years, they finally sorted out all the music issues. Finally, and Assad Khalada, an amazing television director, we talked about him earlier, was willing to spend a few minutes talking to us about his memories of a show that is really, really near and dear to his heart. So without further ado, here is our interview with legendary television sitcom director Assad Khalada of WKRP in Cincinnati.
And we are so incredibly privileged right now to be speaking with one of the great television sitcom directors of all time, and I'm proud to say also a very dear friend, Assad Khalada, who, in addition to shows like Who's the Boss and The Facts of Life, on this particular incident, we're talking to him about his work doing WKRP, because one of our huge recommendations this week for people's boxed set DVD gifts is the complete set of WKRP, which has been long in the coming because of all these music rights issues. Assad, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my great pleasure, Wade. Thank you for having me.
Let's first talk about how long it took this thing. How privy were you to all of the negotiations that were going on with respect to the music? Because there are a lot of shows like The Wonder Years, which is also out in the complete set now, and China Beach, which came out about a year ago. All of these shows, primarily from the same period of time, 70s, 80s, were held up over music rights. How privy were you to what was going on?
Well, even when we were doing the show, I was on a weekly basis. We were all aware of clearances and how crucial that was for the show, and how much negotiation that had to go on between MTM and producers and music people. And then I know that some years ago there was an effort to release, I think it was the first season, and the rights were not given at that time, so it was a watered-down version of the music. And so this has been long forthcoming, and everybody has been anticipating it and hoping it would happen. I had almost given up hope because it was so complicated, but I am absolutely thrilled that the show is intact now and it can be preserved for history, because it really is an iconic moment in television history, and I'm thrilled that it's happened.
Well, it was. It was really one of the touchstones of. I was kind of. I was a teenager and getting into high school, and so music and radio and all those things. That was very much a world that was opening up to me at that age, and I laughed every week, almost to tears. It was such an incredibly funny show, and that was a golden era for sitcoms. But for somebody who's really steeped in the sitcom and the 3-camera thing from that golden era, all the different shows that you directed, what made this one so special? Why does this one stand out in people's memories?
Well, it stands out in not only in my memory, but in my own life experiences as a highlight. And I think it was because it was a combination of various factors. First of all, the characters were so iconic and appealing and endearing, and it was a reflection of the sociology of the time and the thinking of the time. And also, underneath all that, while it was obviously very funny and sometimes pushed the envelope that way, it was always, all the episodes were about something that was more than getting a laugh. There was some theme or some aspect of our time that was being addressed, and it was pushing people's attention span to think of things while they were laughing. I remember the first episode I directed on WKRP was an episode called Less on a Ledge. And
I was going to get to that later, but go ahead.
Yeah. And the reason, that I bring that up because, when you think of it, how long ago that was, that episode dealt with the fact that Les Nessman was being accused of being gay, and he just couldn't deal with it and went out on a ledge and had to be talked back in from jumping, and all done with brilliant humor and brilliant character interaction. But that kind of thing was going on. And then also, there is the characters were so inventive. Every one of them stands out as a three-dimensional character that was not seen before quite in that dimension. So anyway, there was a lot going on, but ultimately we all come back to the same thing, that the writing was brilliant, and it always has to start from there. Hugh Wilson created a show that was literate as well as hilarious, and the writing started everything, and the actors carried the ball from that point on.
And we should point out, too, that Hugh Wilson, who created the show, is also the brain behind the Police Academy movies.
Absolutely, yes.
So really a comedy legend, both on the small screen and the big screen.
Yes.
Since you brought it up, let's talk about Less on a Ledge for a second, because that was the third episode. That was the first one you directed. It was the third episode ever, and it like every WKRP episode, it dealt with some very serious stuff, but it somehow wove it in with all of this incredibly funny stuff. But the thing that's interesting to me about that is that sitcoms, very often, they take a while for the characters to develop, for the actors to sort of get acclimated to their characters, for the writers to get acclimated to what the actors are bringing. And very often you will watch a show for a first season, and the characters aren't fully fleshed out until maybe the end of that season or the beginning of the second season, when everyone starts to fire on all cylinders. Does that reflect your experience in many cases?
Most of the time, yes, and there are the anomalies, the rarities. WKRP was one of them. I remember Family Ties was another one where the show seemed to start out full blown. And I think that comes from a very clear vision from the creator, knowing what this show was going to be about, not just a concept, not just an idea of what could be funny or funny people, but a notion that he or she wanted to pursue with a long view of what the series is about. And I think that is a bit of a long lost art, and unfortunately, in some respects right now, it's beginning to come back. We are seeing shows that are conceptual as well as just very funny. But I think that is where the longevity comes, in my feeling, that in my opinion, that if there is a showrunner, a show creator who really has a clear sense of what this show is going to be about. Chuck Lorre writes that way,
right.
And Hugh Wilson, of course, and Gary Goldberg. And so the golden age, as you refer to it, of television was when there were, they were literary people who were writing, and they had something they wanted to write about, in addition to being consummate comic geniuses.
Because, Lesson on a Ledge is one of the, I would say probably one of the 5 or 6 best episodes of the show, and it came at the very beginning, and, normally on another show they might say, well, let's wait for people to learn who Les is and get acclimated to him, but they didn't. That came right at the beginning of the show, and it starts it off on a bang, and then, of course, Turkey's Away, the famous Thanksgiving episode, and suddenly, 10 or 12 episodes into this show, everybody was on board. I remember watching it from the pilot, and I was hooked. It was amazing.
Yes. Well, it's an act of courage in a way to do that, to give the audience not only the benefit of the doubt, but the respect that they will get it. That if we write and talk about something that really has a foundation in a universal truth or a universal idea, people will come to it. But the key also is make it entertaining, make it accessible, and it was very courageous of Hugh Wilson to jump right in and say, this is what the series is going to be about. We're dealing with people, with foibles, with vulnerabilities, as well as with looniness so much of the time.
Let's talk about the cast, because this is one of the all-time great ensembles of all time. Everyone on this show is funny in a very, very different way. When you were working with these actors, talk about what the process was like a little bit for you. Howard Hessman is still, to this day, I can't even think about Johnny Fever without sort of breaking into laughter. But Herb Tarlick, the name Herb Tarlick, I just drop that on a certain generation of people, and they start laughing. They just start thinking of Blazers and Les Nessman, Caught in the Element. So many things about this show. What was it like working with this cast?
Well, for me, it was a director's dream. It truly was. It sounds like a cliche, but it just was a pure pleasure to go to the set every day, because they were actors. They knew what they were doing. They were lovely people, and it was a team. And the thing that was very interesting to me is that just about everybody had a different way of working, and so for me, as I was still a fairly young director, but had done enough before that I felt I was a bit on solid ground. But it was a growing experience for me too, to learn how to work with different people, each brilliant in his or her own way, but coming in with a different methodology. Howard was so intuitive and his work with improv and all of that, but still he needed to be grounded in what this character is doing and talking like that. Gordon Jump, bless his heart, was just a sweet and dear man, and just brought himself to the set. Lonnie was, the character of Jennifer, I think one of the strong reasons for the success of that show was that it was one of the very early times that we saw a gorgeous looking woman who was probably the most intelligent one in that group.
True.
And to have that combination was not really seen very much at that point. You either had kind of the blonde, beautiful, decorative character, or somebody, if she was smart, then she was not somebody who was that attractive. But there you got both things, and this was a very calculated decision on Hugh's part. But in working with these actors, we all felt that we were working on a play each week, and so it was building characters, building relationships, talking about how does the first scene relate to the last scene, and so it just was a very rich experience for me.
You know, obviously, since we received the box set, I've been catching up on a lot of these episodes and just laughing myself to tears all over again, and realizing how much funnier the show still is than I even imagined in my best memories. Let's talk about some of your favorite episodes, because I certainly have some of mine. I obviously Less on a Ledge.
Yes.
There's one later in the first season where the Herb gets as the WKRP mascot gets into the fight with the WPIG pig, which I just think is absolutely brilliant. And then there's one, I think it's a fourth season episode you directed where Les gets involved with a prostitution ring without really knowing it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these to me are just priceless episodes. What are some of your favorite episodes?
Well, there were some episodes that kind of may not have been the most memorable or whatever, but that stand out of me. There was a two-parter with Johnny Fever he's thinking of leaving the station, going to another station, and the bittersweet aspects of his leaving and then coming back. And you mentioned the one about the fish, the mascot. I mean, there's an interesting story behind that, in that I think at the time the show was there was a lot of pressure on where to place it. It was moved around so many times, and is it commercial enough? Is it this, that? And Hugh, I think, just kind of defied the institutions and said, okay, I'm going to write what you would call a commercial show in the most blatant sense, and put the characters in silly costumes, basically, like wearing a silly hat. But even that, with Herb Tarlick wearing a fish outfit and another wearing which you would consider to be just pandering in the most base terms, but again, it's one of the most memorable shows because on the surface it's that, but it's really dealing with something else underneath it all, something that has a little bit more substance than simply let's put on a funny costume. So this was a favorite show of mine too, because of how to balance these two things, that we're not just being silly, we're being funny. Yes, silly costumes, all of that, but what is really underneath all of that? And I'm trying to remember there were so many of them. It's really hard to select ones, but needless to say, Less on a Ledge will always be very, very dear to my heart, because not only was it the first one, but it ended up being such a memorable one that it stands out for me in my own experience.
I mean, certainly, that's a perfect example of what you're just talking about. I can't think of any other sitcoms other than perhaps All in the Family that did such an agile job of juggling the very funny with the very serious. You know, there were episodes that dealt with drugs, with infidelity, with a crime, with all kinds of very, very serious issues, with homophobia, with all of these things, and yet at the same time that you're sort of being provoked to think about these things in a very serious way, you're laughing. And I think, for me at least, it changed my mind that you don't have to run away from reality to laugh, that you can laugh and still be actively engaged in very serious subjects. And that, to me, is the great miracle of the show. It really is extraordinary.
I agree. And I think it elevates, and I dare say use the heavy words, but it elevates it to an art form. We don't usually think that in terms of sitcoms or television, but it really is this balance, this very, very delicate juggling act of saying something that resonates, but doing it in a way that absolutely entertains without any reservations held. So it was a brilliant achievement, and we see that happening when it does, we celebrate because it is really a rare occurrence.
Well, Asad, thank you for talking to us. I think that's a perfect place to stop. It's so wonderful to have this show out again and available to everybody on DVD in its complete run with all the music issues resolved, so we can all kind of immerse ourselves in one of the great sitcoms of all time. Thanks again for speaking to us. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you. It is my great pleasure, and I hope people go out and get the set and savor it on and on, over and over.
Absolutely.
Thanks you very much.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, and it's time for our first giveaway. First giveaway. Now, this is actually a bit of an interesting giveaway. It's for something that's not out yet, and it comes out on December 16th. So whoever wins this is not going to get it until after December 16th. We haven't seen the disc yet. We haven't even gotten ours. But we wanted to make something special, so that you will get this in time for the holidays. And
we can't guarantee that. Can we guarantee they can get it before the holidays?
I can guarantee them that I'll let the publicist know they should get it before the holidays.
Okay, guys, you're not going to get it before the holidays.
So anyway, we are giving away a Blu-ray from Lionsgate Home Entertainment of The Skeleton Twins with Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig.
Good movie.
Really good movie.
Surprisingly good. Where'd that come from?
You know what? They are so good in it, obviously because they have a rapport from SNL, but it's a really good film. I think it may be a little bit of an awards season dark horse if they get behind it a little bit. I think they should push it. I think she's wonderful in it. Bill Hader plays dramatic in an amazingly powerful way. A couple of dysfunctional siblings with a little bit of a backstory, and they're both suicidal in their present day, and their lives are a little bit on edge and falling apart. He moves in with her, and these siblings kind of try to put their past behind them. They've been estranged for years, and it's sort of people with lots of baggage trying to rebuild their shattered lives, and it's funny. But it's meaningful, incredibly well done. It's a beautiful movie. It's an absolutely beautiful movie, and we'll talk about it more, obviously, when we get the Blu-ray. But for the time being, that comes out on December 16th from Lionsgate Home Entertainment. And we are giving away one Blu-ray. So remember, with the giveaways this week, you can only win one. You can only win one. So please, apply for. Please, send us an email only for the thing that you want to win. Don't send it for the other giveaways. We have 2 other giveaways. So pick the giveaway that you want to be a part of, and then you will be in the pool for that giveaway. Don't send us an email requesting all 3 of them. All 3. So in this case, anyone who wants the Blu-ray of the Skeleton Twins, go ahead and send us an email to gods@digigods.com. Put twins in the subject. Just TWINS, no funny spellings, twins in the subject, and include your name and address in the body of the email. And we will select by the day after Thanksgiving a winner, and you will be alerted shortly thereafter, sometime around the beginning of the week after Thanksgiving. And as you know, we're not going to be really, really firm on when we get this. We have to let the publicist know the Monday after Thanksgiving. So what day is that, Mark? That's the 1st, December 1st. So if you're sending us stuff on December 1st or after, we're not going to be able to let anybody know. But we will select a winner probably on the 28th, 29th, and then we'll get you your Blu-ray of the Skeleton Twins shortly after December 16th. All right, Mark.
Yes, sir. What are we doing next? Look at all those Blu-rays and DVDs we have to talk about.
Hold on a second.
By the way, I got my Skeleton Twins screener in the mail yesterday. Did you get yours? Yes. Did you get yours?
I have not gotten mine.
Now, this is the screener that comes to us from the studios because Wade and I will be voting in our LAFCA year-end awards in a couple of weeks. And now, Wade, why don't you tell everybody, why don't you make everybody jealous, or I can make everybody jealous, about the Fox party we're going to in a couple of weeks?
Oh, yeah.
So we are going to...
Jim Giannopoulos is having a party at his house, and Mark and I are invited. And nobody else. Just Jim Giannopoulos is like, wait, Mark, love what you guys do. Come on over.
So get this. So,
come on by. We'll shoot some pool.
So I probably shouldn't say this, but so we RSVP for it, and they don't give you the address till after the RSVP is received and accepted. So after the RSVP is received and accepted, then they send us Jim Giannopoulos' home address because that's where the party is.
Oh, they're going to regret that.
So what does Mark do? He goes on Zillow.com. He see how much his home is worth and how big it is.
It's hilarious.
I just had it.
And then sends me an email. X number of bedrooms, X number of bathrooms.
Yes,
hysterical.
I did. It was 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, over 5,000 square feet. It was like $7.5 million.
All right, so we got a few things we're going to mention as far as you should be talking about this stuff. I don't know why I'm talking about it, but the for Hanukkah, we don't often get anything for Hanukkah. It's like, oh, it's gift season, but everything is oriented toward Christmas, and it's like, look, a lot of people out there don't celebrate Christmas, but it's Hanukkah season too. So finally, here's something amazing for anyone who celebrates Hanukkah. From the wonderful people over at Sisu Home Entertainment, which releases primarily, Jewish-oriented and Hebrew language stuff. Shalom Sesame, which is the Israeli version, English language, of Sesame Street. And it's fantastic. It's got it's basically Sesame Street except with a Jewish orientation to it. Lots of great guests on here, including Christina Applegate.
Not Jewish.
Deborah Messing is.
Not Jewish.
Yes, she is. Deborah Messing?
Yes, I have no idea.
Christina Applegate's not. But, Eva Longoria, Jake Gyllenhaal. I mean, it's a lot of... Greg Kinnear even shows up in here. Did you know that? Greg Kinnear showed up on Shalom Sesame. Don't you know everything that he does?
Greg Kinnear? Not Jewish.
Aren't you guys that tight?
I haven't seen Greg in 5 years.
I know. Anyway, it's really, really fun. Stuff in here like Monsters in the Sukkah, Hanukkah, The Missing Menorah. It orients to, it's just wonderful. Countdown to Shavuot, Adventures in Israel, all of these things. It's Passover Grover, which is hysterical. It's Passover Grover. Really is funny.
How would you know it's hysterical? You don't know what Passover is.
I love Passover.
I love Passover too.
I do. It's good food.
It is good food.
It's great food.
Okay, so gefilte fish.
I've been to Seder's.
Gefilte fish? Yes or no?
No.
Really?
No.
So good.
But that relish.
It's
that relish
horseradish.
No, the relish, the bitter herb relish.
Oh
stuff.
yeah, well you mean where they chop up the walnuts and the
yeah,
it's good stuff.
It's really good. I don't know why I can't have that year round.
You can. There's no reason why I can't.
And then similarly, we also have some wonderful box sets from Film Movement. Film Movement, one of the more innovative companies out there. They put together some great box sets. And this one is Faces of Israel, New Israeli Cinema. Includes 4 films, Campfire, For My Father, 7 Minutes in Heaven, and the wonderful, amazing The Human Resources Manager, which is really the killer title in this. This is, really shows you what's going on in Israel. Fascinating time to be a filmmaker in Israel. Another box set from Film Movement is Beyond Borders, Stories of Interfaith Friendship. This bridges us from Christmas to Hanukkah and everything else. 3 films here. A Bottle in the Gaza Sea, Arranged, and Foreign Letters. All 3 also absolutely excellent. Really, really well-curated boxed set. And all of these, of course, have short films in addition to them. I got to say, the one here that I thought was that I really, really enjoy is A Bottle in the Gaza Sea, which is a letter in a bottle story about a Palestinian man and a French-Israeli girl. And it's poignant. It's really powerful. Beautiful film. And then also from Film Movement, The Female Gaze, Contemporary Films by Women from Around the World. This is a box set that includes 7 different films, all of them also excellent. So they're picking the cream of the crop and doing some great box sets. And women are doing well this season, by the way, as far as awards contention movies.
Sisters are doing it for themselves.
Selma obviously is in the
Selma's
buzz.
really good.
But you've also got the Babadook, female director.
That's right.
Australian film. I mean, there's suddenly, like this season, I'm very aware of the fact that there are 4 or 5 films by female directors that are really in the mix. And it feels like the densest, it feels like the scales are balancing a little for a change. The films included here are Arcadia, Made in USA, Madein USA, all like one word. Watchtower, Foreign Letters, Queen of Hearts, Inshallah Demanche, and The Forest for the Trees. So women are coming on, and we're getting a little more gender balance as far as making movies. From Megahertz, who picks up all these great foreign dramas, usually from Italy or France or Scandinavia. Borgen, we've talked about Borgen, which is kind of this political drama from Denmark, and this is the complete series of Borgen, all 3 seasons. Beautifully packaged, and it's a really intense, beautifully made show. We've talked about it. That's a great box set.
You know who else stars in that show?
Huh.
The Swedish Chef from the Muppets.
Okay.
You knew I was going to say that.
And then really quickly...
Borg, Borg, Borg. He was my favorite Muppet. He really was.
You know what's funny about that? He's your favorite Muppet?
Kind of, yeah.
You know who my favorite Muppet is?
Here we go. Who?
Well, he works with the Swedish Chef.
Beaker, the Beaker guy.
Beaker. Love Beaker. Beaker just made me laugh. It's the funniest thing. How do you just being like puppeteering Beaker is the easiest thing in the world. You don't actually ever have to say anything. You just go boop, 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 boop. Anyone can do Beaker.
Well, you ever wonder why Beaker talks like that? There's got to be some like meth involved or something. I mean, I don't know where that guy came from, or if he went to school, whose parents were, what his past was.
Who knows?
But he talks like that for a reason.
A little bit of British television here, by the way, too. Secrets of Iconic British Estates from PBS includes tours of Highclere Castle, Hampton Court Palace, and Althorpe and Chatsworth. Basically, this is all kind of from the Highclere Castle, of course, is where they shoot Downton Abbey, and this comes with a lovely book and 4 discs, and you get to just tour all these places that you will never ever see in person and probably never be able to afford unless you win every lottery in every country on the earth. But it's cool; they're really awesome estates, very old school. And then a couple of complete collections of British shows, both from Acorn via ITV Studios, who previously we mentioned with the timeless release of Secret Agent. Jeeves and Wooster, the complete collection. This has been out a few times before, but never in a case quite this slim. This is a wonderful, very compact case that shows you Hugh Laurie and Stephen Fry way back when they were young, but no less brilliant. These guys have been on the ball for so many decades. And P.G. Wodehouse created Jeeves and Wooster, and this is Jeeves and Wooster on television on 8 discs, and the show remains wonderful, absolutely impeccably funny. And then Murder in Suburbia, the complete collection. This is kind of like a Cagney and Lacey in the suburbs of the UK. A couple of female detectives, and it's a good show. It's a really good show. That also is from Acorn, 4 discs, the complete show. So, Mark.
Yes, sir.
I'm waking you up. All right, here's what we can do. We've got...
Wade's looking around.
I'm looking around.
He's deciding
so
what.
I think
piles. Now we have giveaways. We have interviews. We have more DVDs and Blu-rays to talk about. So much, Wade. Why are you even hemming and hawing?
Here's what we're going to do now.
Wow.
Let's talk about some books, and we've got some interviews hooked in with the books. So why don't we move to books for a second?
You know what? I've been known to read the occasional book. Now we have. I see we have books about Woody Allen.
Yes.
Now I was a big fan of his latest film, Magic in the Moonlight with Emma Stone. Terrific. Kind of overlooked. Not sure when Woody's next film is coming out, though. I haven't really heard anything about that. But we do have the Ultimate Woody Allen Film Companion. Now, lots has been written on Woody Allen, and the only reason why I'm never a fan of these sorts of companion pieces is because by the time his next movie comes out, it is no longer definitive. But I got to say, this one by Jason Bailey is just terrific. I also like the layout of it. It's not a scholarly layout, which I like. It's got these sidebars and these different colored pages and charts and graphs, and it goes over all of his films and has a bunch of sidebar articles about like the process and how he chooses his actors and how he directs and all about like all the different actors who starred in various Woody Allen films. He has like a rep company. Woody Allen has. He's got people like Mia Farrow who've starred like in a dozen of his films, and he has like Alec Baldwin has starred in 3 of his films, and so the book goes over all of that. There's essays about Woody the Romantic and movies that he has starred in that he has not written or directed, and it's great. It's a really interesting book. It's pretty slight, but it's a great flip through. So I would highly recommend the Ultimate Woody Allen Film Companion. I wouldn't call it ultimate or definitive, but it's still a lot of fun.
And, we were going to have a perfect tie into that with something that's come out from Razor and Tie, which is a new CD of Woody Allen, the stand-up years, which was supposed to be released this week. Turns out it's not coming out now till January, which is a bit of a bummer, but keep an eye out for that. It's something you might want to pre-order as a Christmas gift or a Hanukkah gift. The Woody Allen, the stand-up years is awesome.
No. When I was a kid, my father used to play me Woody Allen stand-up bits.
Yeah.
I mean, it was gut-busting.
Well, we got an advance of that. And so we're going to treat you to an excerpt from Woody Allen, the stand-up years, in commemoration also of this fantastic new book, of one of Mark's favorite routines.
I know which one you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Does it involve a particular animal?
It does.
I shot a moose once. I was hunting upstate New York, and I shot a moose. And I strap him onto the fender of my car, and I'm driving home along the West Side Highway. But what I didn't realize was that the bullet did not penetrate the moose. It just creased his scalp, knocking him unconscious. And I'm driving through the Holland Tunnel, And the moose woke up. So I'm driving with a live moose on my fender. And the moose is signaling for a turn, you know? And there's a law in New York State against driving with a conscious moose on your fender Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And I'm very panicky. And then it hits me. Some friends of mine are having a costume party. I'll go. I'll take the moose. I'll ditch him at the party. It wouldn't be my responsibility. So I drive up to the party, and I knock on the door. The moose is next to me. My host comes to the door. I say, hello. You know the Solomons. We enter. The moose mingles. Did very well. Scored. Some guy was trying to sell him insurance for an hour and a half. 12 o'clock comes. They give out prizes for the best costume of the night. First prize goes to the Berkowitzes, a married couple dressed as a moose. The moose comes in second. The moose is furious. He and the Berkowitzes lock antlers in the living room. They knock each other unconscious. Now I figure here's my chance. I grab the moose, strap him on my fender, and shoot back to the woods. But I got the Berkowitzes. So I'm driving along with two Jewish people on my fender. There's a law in New York State. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and especially Saturday. The following morning, the Berkowitzes wake up in the woods in a moose suit. Mr. Berkowitz is shot, stuffed, and mounted at the New York Athletic Club. And the joke is on them because it's restricted.
Fantastic. That's some of the best material that anyone has ever performed before an audience. It's just great.
Oh, it's great. And also, while that was happening, my internet date for the evening just texted me confirmation that we're still on.
Oh, wow.
It's very exciting.
That's good.
Hello, sounds good. See you there. Great stuff, Wade.
All right. So let me blow through some other books real quickly. We've got The Anatomy of Fear, which is Conversations with Cult Horror and Science Fiction Filmmakers by Christopher Vanderkay and his wife, Kathleen Fernandez Vanderkay, who are actually longtime fans and listeners of the podcast. They've been with us for a very, very long time. And oh my goodness, look what's here on the back of the book. There's a quote here: a fascinating and compelling look at the creative process of filmmakers who are pioneering the horror genre into new and uncharted territory. Wait, I can't. What, can you read the quote?
Some blurb whore named Wade Major.
Oh yeah,
it's weird.
So, anyway, no, this is a terrific book, and we want to congratulate Chris and Kathy for really putting together a wonderful collection of interviews. The Anatomy of Fear, it's got a great cover artwork on it. They did a really good job. So congratulations on the book. Having done books as well, I know how difficult it is to get them off the ground and to make them good, and they did a great job. Really good job. And then we've also got The Bewitched Continuum. Mark? This thing came a few days ago. You haven't seen this. I thought this was going to be like a hardcover book. It's not. This thing's like the size of a phone book, and it's softcover.
It really is the size of a phone book.
Which is really, it's 600 pages. It's 600 pages on Bewitched. And it's not an episode guide. It's kind of an episode guide. But here's what these nerdy people did. Basically, Adam Michael James is the guy who did this. And he's a continuity lunatic. I mean, he used to do reading for agencies and studios and whatnot. So anyway, he's obsessive about things. Clearly obsessive about Bewitched. What this does is every episode, it annotates in several different sections how it connects with every other episode. For example, clearly Samantha's in a bad mood here because 3 episodes ago she did a thing, and that thing clearly is still affecting her here and then in the future. And so there's this, it creates the world by cross-referencing every episode, presuming that the writers, when they wrote this, were actually thinking, oh, we have to... But they don't.
Which they were not.
They were not. But it's amazing how thorough this is, almost to a psychotic degree. It's insane. I mean, no one would enjoy this unless you're a diehard fan of the show.
So Do you remember that that documentary, the Stanley Kubrick documentary on The Shining, Room 3, whatever it was?
It's almost in that. It's almost there. Yeah, it is.
It's awesome.
And then, hold on, let me get to, I have no interest in this, but I'm going to mention it. We got this from DK Publishing and in tandem with, WWF or WWE, whatever it is now. This is 30 years of WrestleMania. Do people who watch WrestleMania buy books?
I can't imagine.
Do they know how to read?
No, I can't imagine them flipping through this. But
do they even have coffee tables?
I don't know.
Would they want this taking up the space that their feet go on?
That actually might be their coffee table. If they were to buy that, they would make that into their coffee table and put their beer on top of it.
I guess. I just I can't imagine anybody who watches WrestleMania actually wanting a book. But there it is, 30 years of WrestleMania. And it's actually surprisingly literate for the audience presumably being targeted for this. I mean, it gives you a lot of really interesting information. It's very well put together and edited and great photos and whatnot, but it's just very strange. And let's see. All right. And then now we're getting to another one of our wonderful interviews. So, Charles Solomon, colleague of ours in the Los Angeles Film Critics Association. I'm on the radio a lot with Charles. Charles is the animation guy. He is your animation go-to guy. Like Alonzo's the Christmas guy, Charles is the animation guy. Knows everything there is to know about animation. Extraordinarily encyclopedic mind on this. I mean, it's just a wonder to talk to him. I learn something every single time. Being on the radio with him when there's an animated film out in a given week is extraordinary, because all I can do is go on with the other critic and we go, yeah, I liked it or I didn't like it. And Charles comes in and says, the animators who did this, they borrow the artwork and the artwork references this and the origins of the, and it's just, suddenly it's like I'm a student and I'm in school. It's an extraordinary thing. So Charles has written books before, the Beauty and the Beast book on Pixar. This is one of his best, and this is something I urge everyone to get, especially if you have kids. This is The Art of the Disney Golden Books. Now, I have a bunch of golden books for my daughter. We've been buying golden books for her, and on Charles's recommendation mostly. He says, you got to get this, and the saggy baggy elephant, and yada, 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 on and on. And it's like, okay, you're the man. And he's right. I mean, she loves all of them. The Color Kittens is so good. So Charles did this amazing book on the history of the golden books, which generations have grown up on. And it's wonderful, and you learn so much about the artwork and how they came to be, and who was inspired by whom, and what artists did what. And it's fantastically put together, and it is a gorgeous, gorgeous book. And we're going to talk to Charles in just a moment and have him share all of his extraordinary the whole process of putting the book together. But at the same time they sent me that, they also sent me some other stuff, which is worth mentioning. So I'm also going to mention this wonderful book, Mark Davis, Walt Disney's Renaissance Man. This is a book about one of the incredible Disney artists. And look at this, Mark. You kidding me?
Gorgeous. Now, was he one of the 8 wise men, or whatever they called him?
The what old men? Not that I know of. I mean, he basically he's the guy who sort of created many of the characters that we know in the film, like Cinderella and a lot of he was the guy who sort of gave them life. He's the character design guy, right? And really kind of an unsung figure as far as I'm concerned. Like Cruella de Vil is another one of his, creations. And just an extraordinary artist. I mean, look at the drawing here. This is like Michelangelo, right?
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's just amazing. You don't realize often the effort that went in these days, these pre-CGI days, the effort that went into conceptualizing what the characters in these
He was. I looked it up. He was one of Disney's 9 old men.
He was one of the 9 old men. Yes. Okay, good. So anyway, just remarkable. Like, look at this stuff here with the horse. I mean, look, like getting the motions of the horse right. Figuring out. It's just incredible. It's just incredible.
You know what? Point that photo at the Mr. Ed DVD box set.
Okay.
And see if Mr. Ed responds.
There you go. Anyway, it's so what you basically get from this is that this is a guy who, he invented these characters, and the characters don't just come out of thin air. So for a lot of these movies, he's the guy. He was the go-to guy. And then we also have The Art of Princess Mononoke. Now, this is not a Disney book per se, but this is Disney releases a lot of the Hayao Miyazaki films. Warner Brothers releases a lot of Viz Media stuff on DVD, and this kind of goes in the same vein. This is wonderful. The Art of Princess Mononoke, a film which I was not terribly fond of in its dubbed version, like Billy Bob Thornton as a samurai. Not great. But that's wonderful. And then what Disney also sent was this, Over There. This is incredible. If you have kids, you've got to pick this up. My daughter fell in love with this instantly. Over There is this is the one of a series of books that they're doing with Pixar animators. They're basically giving Pixar animators the chance to illustrate their own children's books as like a little like moonlighting thing. Like, oh, we love the work you did on that movie. You want to do a kid's book? Pick the story, write the story, work with somebody. Let's sort of, do this. And this is the Pixar Animation Studios Artist Showcase. That's the name of the series. And Over There is the story of this little shrew, this amazing little shrew and his friendship with a mole. And the artwork is magnificent. Steve Pilcher wrote this and illustrated it. And look at this. Look at this artwork.
That's gorgeous.
It's amazing.
Beautiful, rich, lush,
look at the little
greens
shrew.
and browns.
Look at him. He's a little rubber band.
Oh, stupid shrew.
Oh, it's so sweet.
He's an idiot.
I mean, my daughter just grabbed this immediately. She saw the shrew, and she fell in love with it. And if you have kids, it's a wonderful little hardcover book. It's called Over There by Steve Pilcher. And it's fantastic. It's just absolutely fantastic. So that's from Disney Press as well. So with that now, are you raising your hand or are you just stretching?
I'm stretching.
You're stretching. All right. With that, we are now going to go into our interview with Charles Solomon on his book, his wonderful, fantastic book, The Art of the Disney Golden Books. And another fantastic guest for our holiday show. I am speaking right now with my good friend and frequent radio collaborator, Charles Solomon, who is arguably the premier expert in the history of animation. And Charles, every time we're on radio, I feel like I walk away having gleaned some extraordinary little gem of information that I didn't know before. You're a wealth of information, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. I just wish it was a wealth we could take to the bank.
Well, we are one of the things that we are highly recommending for people's gift lists this season is your new book, The Art of the Disney Golden Books, which I think is such an amazing. I'm kind of shocked that this hasn't happened before, because even my generation, and even before my generation, we grew up on these books. I mean, these books have weaned generations of adults and their parents and their grandparents, and yet I read this and I was stunned at how little I actually knew about the history of the Golden Books. Now, you've done a number of great books before on Pixar and Beauty and the Beast and things that are much more familiar. How did this subject fall into your lap?
It's actually was a sort of a gift and a passion project from Ken Shu, who's an executive in Disney Publishing. He was the one who was watching, I believe it was 60 Minutes one night several years ago, and saw a piece about how the printing plant was closing in Racine, Wisconsin, that had belonged to Western Publishing for years through its various incarnations. And they were the people who had actually printed the little golden books. And he realized that in their warehouses, they might still have some of the original artwork, and printed a letter on Disney stationery, but had it, took it down to Kinko's and got it on Dayglow paper and sent it to them to put up with so they couldn't miss it, saying that any Disney artwork had to be returned owing to the terms of the contract. And they found more than 300 boxes. And yes, a lot of it was rubber bands and clips and bad drawings for coloring books, but there were also much of the original artwork from these books that we all grew up on that had simply been stuck in boxes decades earlier, stuck in a warehouse with no climate control, no temperature regulation, probably no heating, and just left there. And miraculously, it's almost all of it survived.
I mean, the thing that I find so extraordinary is how many legendary artists either were involved in the Golden Books or sort of trace their lineage to the Golden Books. Talk just a little bit about how did the Golden Books begin? What was the origin of the Golden Books?
Well, they began when I believe it was an executive at Simon & Schuster realized they wanted an inexpensive picture book for children. The story is that his daughter, who was like 2 or 3, had taken an expensive picture book and dumped it in the bathtub. Something as a father you can understand.
Oh, yeah.
And so got the idea that these would be small books and they would be inexpensive books. And Disney already had a relationship with Western Publishing. They started doing the Mickey Big Little books and some of the other Disney publications. It was a very mutually profitable and successful relationship. And so finally, during the 40s, Disney started doing them as well. And as I'm sure you remember, one of the nice things about Golden Books is because they were small, they were light, they were cheap. So you had an ownership of them in a way you might not a big expensive picture book that you had gotten for your birthday. You know, a Golden Book was a quarter or 75 cents, depending on when you grew up. So if you drew in it or you played with it in the bathtub or you built forts out of it for your stuffed animals, that was okay. It was yours, and you wouldn't get in trouble for that. But it was also short enough to be convenient to read aloud to a child as a bedtime story. For a child who's learning how to read, again, they were short and clear and simple. It was something when you were learning to read, you could master. And as you say, the illustrations were by some of Disney's great inspirational artists, who were doing these little paintings that were so extraordinary. And I believe it was John Hench who did many of the really classic ones, said that, if you were doing the book for Walt, you couldn't do what just anyone would do. You had to do something special. So if you look, say, at the version of Peter Pan that he did, the artwork sort of folds around or wraps around the text the way an illuminated manuscript would. And if there's an illustration of the sea at the top, there'll be seaweed maybe trailing down and a pearl necklace lying on the ocean floor with a fish looking at it. So just these little touches to make it a little more special and to hold a child's interest.
Well, I mean, it's certainly, I'll tell you right now, it's you recommend a whole bunch of them to us when my daughter was born, and it is a nightly ritual now. I mean, she just pores over them, and she loves them, and things like even the Color Kittens, which you had recommended, it's enthralling, but it's enthralling to me too. I mean, it goes to the root of what you and I have always talked about with great animated film.
One of the qualities of really fine illustration is that it does cross, say, a generational gap or an age gap. The colors and the shapes and the relationships in those illustrations are so strong and so clear and so attractive that you recognize that at any age. As an adult, you can look at it and say, you admire it consciously and are realizing what a charming illustration in the case of the Color Kittens that was done by Martin Provenson and his wife, who had done inspirational work for Fantasia. He had designed The Sorcerer for The Sorcerer's Apprentice. But for the Color Kittens, he's doing something much simpler, much clearer. The two little kittens, Brush and Hush, in their gray overalls are appealing and charming. They're very feline. And that's done by someone who can take gouache, opaque watercolor, and translucent watercolor and lay them down so surely that, the shape is there, the color is right, everything is there. And if you make a mistake in gouache, you start over. There's no way to erase it. You can't paint over it. It has to be perfect. And those artists, people like the Provensons, like Mary Blair, like Gustav Tengren, could go in and lay down those washes and then take a dry brush and just add a little smear of color over the surface to give it a texture or a shadowing or a feel of light falling on it in a way that's enormously subtle, yet so effective because these people were so good. They had gone to some of the finest art schools in the country, come to Disney where there had been more classes, more training. So they were very, very polished artists, basically hot dogging and showing up, hey, I can paint this like, you won't believe.
Wow. You're going to laugh at this too, but I have for certain coffee table books, there are coffee table books, and then there are coffee table books, and there are the ones that no one ever looks at. They just sit there, and usually it'll say something on it like, images of Yosemite or something, and no one ever actually opens that.
The joy of art.
Yes, right. It's who cares? But then there are others where I still have a collection of white cotton gloves that I used in film school for editing when we edited on actual film, so that when you're handling the film.
Spicers.
Yes, and so I have certain coffee table books where I don't want to get finger grease on the pictures or on the pages because it's so beautiful. And, some of those are the Taschen books, like the Kubrick archives and the Ingmar Bergman archives. And I realized very quickly when I opened yours that I wanted to put my white gloves on because the artwork is so beautiful and the reproduction is so extraordinary. So your book now goes into the White Glove Club as far as my coffee table books. So tell me a little.
Treat me.
That's how anal retentive I am.
Well, also remember, as we were saying earlier, the Golden Books were cheap. That was part of the point of them. So they weren't printed all that terribly well, and they weren't printed on good paper. And another appeal of doing this book was that we could print it better and use better paper so that you could appreciate those illustrations for what they were. But we weren't putting together a book for children necessarily. Ideally, a book that children and their parents would share. Of course, the other thing that makes those books so magical for people of our age, our generation, whatever, is that we have the memories of our parents reading to us from them. I remember many happy hours with my mother reading to me from Golden Books. And as I was learning to read, reading back to her and feeling, very important that now I could read and I could read to her. And so we have those very special moments that were so essential to our childhood. And now with your daughter, you're creating those moments again in a few years. She'll start to read, and she'll want to read to you from those. And so the torch sort of gets passed on. And how many things can we share with our children or nieces and nephews or friends' kids or, with our memories of our parents that way?
It's very true. As we kind of wrap this up, tell me just a little bit about putting the book together because, I've done some books as well, and I remember dealing with the artwork editors at the publisher was always a bit of a nightmare, and everybody getting on the same page. And I look at this, and just knowing what goes into a book like this, as seamless as it looks when you're leafing through it, I know that the logistics are sometimes a nightmare. This looks like it was probably an enormous effort to have to really put this thing together. I know they gave you access to a lot of great material, but how difficult was it really to sort of make the sausage, as it were?
That was surprisingly easy because we had Wendy Lefkon, who's in charge of Disney Publications. We had Ken Shu, and we had my editor Jessica Ward, and the book's designers, I believe it was the Kobayashi brothers again, who've done so many of my books. It was Clark Kobayashi. Everybody loved this artwork and wanted to get the very best of it. And the only problem we had was there was such a wealth of material that, if we take this out to put this in, then what do we have from that book? And we need something from this illustrator. Well, does that mean we lose one from that illustrator? So it was a bit of a balancing act, but everyone was so enchanted with the artwork, and there was so much of it, that was much less of a problem than it ordinarily would have been.
Well, Charles, it's really a wonderful book, and I highly recommend that everyone, whether they have children or not, whether they have any golden books in the house or not, I mean, they need to get this. It's just it's a wonderful history that I think has gone unacknowledged for far too long, and you've really put a spotlight on something very culturally precious. So thank you for that. And before we go, since this is the holiday season, there's some great animated box sets out there that we're recommending as well. There's the ongoing Looney Tunes Golden set and the Tom and Jerry collections. What for people who are looking for some great animated DVD collections? What kinds of things would you recommend that they put on the gift list?
Oh, let's see. There's the now 4-disc set of the complete Betty Boop that Olive Films have been putting out. And those are wonderful prints. That's a set we've wanted for a long time. With that, there were recently 2 sets of the UPA films. There's one of the Mr. Magoo's and there's one of the Jolly Frolics that has films like Rudy Toot Toot and Gerald McBoing Boing and the Unicorn in the Garden, Giddy Ap, all those classic UPA shorts. Those fill big gaps in what was available in animation. The one we're still missing is a good anthology of the silent Felix the Cats. We don't have that. Coming out from Disney are Blu-rays of Princess Mononoke and Kiki's Delivery Service, 2 amazing films from one of the greatest directors ever to work in animation. There's the How to Train Your Dragon 2, a terrific movie that's coming out in an elaborate Blu-ray set. For people who have older kids who are thinking of like teenagers who are into anime, there's everything from the first Dragon Ball movie in 17 years, Dragon Ball Z, The Battle of the Gods. There's the 3rd of the 4 features Hideaki Anno is making of his Neon Genesis Evangelion series. He's remaking it yet again, and everyone's waiting to see if there's an ending this time. There are also a couple of, for little girls, there's Cardcaptor Sakura, which is an absolutely charming series about a little girl. We talk so much about wanting positive role models for children, and particularly for girls in animation, and that usually means bratty and smart-mouthed in this country. And in Sakura, she's a very shy little girl of about 8 who inadvertently loses a pack of magical cards on the world. And this little magical creature from the cover of the book they came out of tells her, you now have to become a card captor and recapture them or they will do mischief. And she says, no, I'm just a little girl. I'm not good at math. I don't like to do this. But over the course of the episodes, you see her grow stronger and learning to use the cards against each other and just gaining in strength and assurance and capability. And it's a very charming and I think a very good film for girls. There's also the wonderful knockabout wizard series Fairy Tale that's very popular with teenagers. You're going to come across as a cool aunt or uncle if you get that.
And that's Fairy Tale TAIL, we should point out, yes.
Yes, very off the wall and fun. And there's also, completely off the wall, is The Devil is a Part-Timer, in which Satan is thrown into contemporary Tokyo and loses his powers, has no money, and has to take a job working at a fast food outlet.
That's fantastic.
It's so wonderfully silly that we would never do anything like that, but the Japanese will.
Fantastic. Well, Charles, thank you so much for talking to us, and we wish you all the very best with sales of the art of the Disney Golden Books going forward, and have a very, very fantastically happy holidays.
And to you, and thank you.
Thanks, Charles. All right, so Charles. He's the man. When it comes to animation, he's the man. And as long as we're talking about animation, Mark, what animation might people pick up this season that's new to, or relatively new, or even highly recommended?
Well, of all the things I watched, let's go from the classiest to the least classy.
All right.
Let's do Looney Tunes Platinum Collection Volume 3. Now, this is on Blu-ray. Now, as you know, Warner Brothers has been releasing in dribs and drabs some of their classic Looney Tunes. I wish they would do like a whole big box, a big honking box set. Next Christmas, maybe. So here we have Looney Tunes Platinum Collection Volume 3. This is great stuff. It also includes an all-new documentary called That's All Folks, which is great, and a 12-page booklet. But you got Daffy, and you got Bugs Bunny, and you got Sylvester and Porky Pig. So all the classic Looney Tunes, folks. 2-disc set. You got to love it. It's Looney Tunes Platinum Collection Volume 3. Then we have a couple of lesser characters from the Hanna-Barbera collection. Hanna-Barbera, of course, one of the great TV producers of animated shows, at least of my youth. We have a character here who I didn't even remember until I was vaguely reminded in the DVD called Loopy de Loop. Now, Loopy de Loop was a French-Canadian wolf. And,
of course he was.
And his whole thing was that he wanted to change the reputation of Canadian wolves around the world from, the fact that people are scared of them and they're mean, into the fact that they're lovable people like Loop-de-Loop. And so that was his mission in life. So,
of course it was.
So Loop-de-Loop, it didn't really go
Casper,
anywhere.
Like Casper? Hi.
I guess. It didn't really go anywhere in life. And it didn't really go anywhere. I didn't go anywhere in life, as we're now proving, but... The show didn't go anywhere, but still, it's interesting stuff if you want to really go way back into the Hanna-Barbera vaults. The other Hanna-Barbera show, which we have the complete series of, which was a little more popular, was called Shirt Tales. And Shirt Tales is about there was a panda and there was a tiger, and they have this secret, which is that there's like this purple mushroom, and whenever the purple mushroom starts to flash, they become these like superhero characters.
I get the purple, in quotes, the purple mushroom. Yeah.
Where they wear these T-shirts with their names on them. And so it was really for kids, and it was a little ridiculous. I was not a fan of some of the Hanna-Barbera animation was pretty good for the time, for TV. But some of their lesser characters like Shirt Tales and Loop-de-Loop, the animation was really not that inspired. But you know what? Your parents may know it from their youth. So we have Hanna-Barbera, Shirt Tales, the complete series, and Loop-de-Loop, the complete collection. Then we have Adventure Time. Now, Adventure Time is a weird little show. It's got very rudimentary artwork, but it's interesting stuff. I can't say I really grooved to the show all that much, but I have to say that Cartoon Network, they greenlight a lot of interesting shows. They really let animators kind of run wild, and that's kind of gotten them a bit of a cult following. So if you get this Adventure Time set, you do get a little backpack that's inside.
Oh, goody. More backpacks, like the Transformers backpack.
So exactly. So it does become a bit of a gift, like a Christmas gift, appropriate. So there's 16 episodes, and, again, this show isn't really for me, but if you're into it, definitely worth a shot. Also, Wade, you took from me the Batman one that I thought was really good. What'd you do with it?
Oh, the Batman one.
I like the Batman one.
Sorry. I'm just trying to manage our materials here.
Assault on Arkham. Now, over the years, Arkham Asylum has become like this really major, location Batman lore. There's like video games based on, like I've played the video game where Batman goes through Arkham and runs around and tries to gets beaten up and beats up guards and tries to it's really good. And now we have a movie based on that called Assault on Arkham, and this is kind of adult stuff. I got to say they do a good job with this. Some of these DC does, and so it's on Blu-ray. It's also on DVD and digital HD. So it's all Assault on Arkham. This is good stuff. One of the better ones in the series. The animation is very stylish, and I totally dig it. So go for that one.
Yeah.
I have to hold these out farther than I normally would because I don't have my glasses.
Oh, see?
Because I won't let you stop the recording.
These are new glasses that I'm wearing. These are progressives. I
What-
can now
what
see
does that
far.
mean?
They're a little bit like bifocals, except like better, so I can look through the top and I see far, and I look down below and I can read.
How is that different from a bifocal?
Well, it's not. It's just called progressive.
Yeah, you know what that means? It's called progressive, which means they get to charge you another $150 for the frames.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows how much I love Mystery Science Theater, and everyone knows how sick I am of these Mystery Science Theater box sets. Not because they're not great, but because how many of these can I own?
I don't know. But this one's Thanksgiving themed,
It
right?
is Thanksgiving themed. This is Mystery Science Theater 3000 Collection 31, the Turkey Day Collection.
Yeah.
4 previously unreleased episodes, plus new intros by Joel Hodgson. And they have, Thanksgiving bumpers and Thanksgiving marathon interstitials and all this crazy stuff. So the movies here include Jungle Goddess, The Painted Hills, Squirm, and The Screaming Skull. All I care about usually are the shorts. I have to say, I really just care about the shorts.
Yeah.
Look, if you're an MST 3K completist like I am, I will have this and I will enjoy it, and it'll probably sit unopened in my shelf because I want to have them all. But it's like, how many of these can you watch?
I don't know.
Anyway, we love Shout Factory. We love MST, so I would definitely check out 31 Turkey Day Collection. We also have... I just bumped the mic.
Yes, you did.
Now, Tinto Brass is a director that we've talked about.
He basically, Italian director of Caligula, most famously, but he basically made movies in which lots of topless Italian women walk around in garter belts with no underwear.
And they do in this set. Tinto Brass, maestro of erotic cinema. Now, I'm not saying it's not erotic, but you have to understand the definition of eroticism at the time.
Yeah.
This is not pornography. This is really just women walking around with like waka waka music, and I think it's stuff. I don't like it.
It's like Emmanuel. It's sophisticated softcore is what it is. But
there's 4 films here: Cheeky, Black Angel, Private, and Mon Amour. And
because this presents him as an auteur, it's a little bit more legit. So someone won't be upset if you get this. Well, maybe they will.
He is not an auteur. I'm sorry. I mean, he's got a thing. You know what I mean? That thing made him famous.
Blu-ray.
But it's a Blu-ray, and it's got new transfers from a lot of these movies, because a lot of these movies are pretty old. Not pretty old. I mean, they're about 10, 15 years old. But still, there's a documentary on here. There's photo galleries. There's making of featurettes. So I don't know that Tinto Brass really is the Hitchcock of erotic cinema, which is what he calls himself. But I don't know what to say.
What that means.
I don't know what that means either.
Yeah. And for the first time on Blu-ray, Elvis, That's the Way It Is, 2-disc collector's set. This was the original 2001 release of Elvis, That's the Way It Is on DVD, now out on Blu-ray, along with 1970s Elvis on the second disc. And if you've never been an Elvis fan, this will make you one. If you are, you will just be absolutely elated. This is basically going back to the Elvis performances from 1970 at the International Hotel in Las Vegas. And this is Elvis from the jumpsuit era, the Elvis with the gold chains and the chorus behind him, and it's just great. And this thing comes in the usual Warner Brothers Blu-ray book styling with the 40-page book that has all these great photos. It's just wonderful. So somewhere there's somebody who's has their inner Elvis impersonator that's really, really just going to love that. And then also, as long as we're talking about we were talking earlier about great boxed sets, like great design of them with the Wonder Years. This is almost the same as the Wonder Years. And for the sports fan, Mark, dig this. This is almost like that locker. It's essentially the same form factor. Hold on. Look at this thing. If I threw this at you, we would have no more show. It would kill.
It would kill.
Here is another locker, a fancier locker.
Ooh.
Right?
30 for 30.
30 for 30 from ESPN Films. If you've been watching the 30 for 30 documentaries, I mean, you know what these are all about. These are just amazing. You open this thing up, and there you go.
And there's DVDs, Wade.
Fifth anniversary.
Why do they make the locker so beautiful, but they give you DVDs?
There's a shirt in here, too.
That's very disappointing.
5th anniversary collection, and it's just, it's like it's a locker. There's all this stuff in it. It's just great. This is really great. And these are fantastic shows. ESPN has some of the best sports documentary people on the planet. They really do.
Oh, well, the 30 for 30 series is very highly respected.
It's so good.
And they also sometimes they get pretty famous people to direct those.
I know.
It's not just done by in-house people.
No, not at all. So anyway, this is the 30 for 30 series in this amazing locker packaging. If you get this and the Wonder Years, you can put them both on the shelf, and people will just be in awe at how you have 2 lockers filled with DVDs.
Either in awe or possibly.
They'll run screaming the other direction. Yeah. Anyway.
All right, wait. Well, here's the thing: is that I had a couple notes on this one, but I couldn't read them because I need my glasses. You know what the sad thing about needing? You know what the sad thing about glasses are? Is that when I put them on, I realize I need them.
I know.
It's really deflating.
It sucks. Well,
which means now there's something else I have to carry around all the time.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Anyway, all right. Well, I did all that because I wanted to talk about the definitive World War I and World War II collection. Now, this is 20 discs. Now, you got to understand, folks, this is all stuff that's been out before. We have the World Wars, 100 years of World War I, 75 years of World War II. There's also the HD series, World War II in HD, World War II in HD, the Air War, and World War II in HD, Iwo Jima. The Color of War I thought was pretty interesting because, again, there's a lot of color footage that came out later in the war. So that's great. And Patton 360 I was a huge fan of. I like that one, too. But this is all in one gigantic box set, 20 discs, 44 hours of stuff. I'm sure that the war buff or the dad or uncle in your family probably has some of these. Maybe you've gotten it for them over the years. But what I would do is I would sneak into their cabinet, grab all the ones that they've gotten previously, go to a record store or eBay, sell them back, get a couple bucks in cash, and go out and buy this one. Because this is pretty much the last word. Because, History Channel, they just don't stop. I mean, they come out with so many of these. But this seems like the last word. There's 44 hours of stuff. I like the World War I stuff because I know a lot less about World War I than I do about World War II, like most people. So this 3 and 4, 100 years of World War I, that's the one that I like. Plus, the villain was a guy named Kaiser.
Nice.
So that's why I like it, too. So this is definitive. Again, wish it was Blu-ray. It is not Blu-ray, especially the HD ones. But what are you going to do? This is the definitive World War I and World War II collection.
All right, so it's time for the Christmas movies. And we're going to go through this as quickly as possible because these things come out like fast and furious. They really do. And most of them are straight to video or they do them on television for Lifetime or something. A lot of kid stuff in here, too. So I'm going to roll through these as quickly as I can. Here's the really junk stuff first. This is, let's see, we have a reality show or some crappy TV show. We got to do something for Christmas, and it's strictly for fans. Duck Dynasty, Duck the Halls. Are you kidding me? Come on, stop. It has an unlock code for the Duck Dynasty video game. I guess if you're a fan, they find a way to milk that for everything they've got. Even worse, here comes Honey Boo Boo, A Very Boo Christmas.
Well, I don't know who's going to buy that now. The show's been canceled, and the mom was like dating a child molester. And,
oh my gosh, is there anything less Christmassy now in the wake of that news?
I'm very surprised. I'm surprised that they didn't just pull this.
Well, they didn't. It's out there. I mean, so I'm sure they figure somebody's going to buy it. Pawn Stars, A Very Vegas Christmas Special. Oh yeah, that'll put you in the mood to buy gifts. This has all the guys from Pawn Stars, Counting Cars, American Restoration, all that tattooed blue collar, let's go weld something for Christmas stuff. If there's always a Christmas horror film or two, and To All a Good Night with Jennifer Runyon is on Blu-ray, and I don't know. It's a Christmas horror film about a crazy slasher Santa Claus, just like all the other ones. Black Christmas and Silent Night, Deadly Night, and there's a million of those, and they're all kind of the same. So if that's your thing. Also, on Blu-ray and on DVD, I Am Santa Claus, distributed by Morgan Spurlock. But directed by Tommy Avalone. This is basically about a bunch of guys who belong to an organization known as the Fraternal Order of Real Bearded Santas, otherwise known as Forbes, Forbs, the Fraternal Order of Real Bearded Santas.
Dud.
And you find out that there are a whole bunch of really freaky dudes who do Santa Claus. Like one guy's on welfare the rest of the year, and another guy is like a bear icon, right? He's like a gay icon in gay calendars, and you get a photo shoot with him naked in a bathtub with his Santa Claus beard. It's basically supposed to convey to you the amazing diversity of the guys who play Santa Claus. Really what it did for me was think, oh my gosh, I'm never taking my child to a mall ever to sit on Santa's lap. You
haven't done that yet?
No, not yet. We were going to do that this year, but this scared me because I was like, these guys. This is like one guy's a biker and another guy they're kind of a creepy bunch. These are guys that really have no lives other than pretending to be Santa Claus for 1 month out of the year.
I bet they're all alcoholics and child molesters too.
I'm sure.
Sit on my lap, little Timmy.
Tyler Perry's Medea Christmas, the movie. You know what? That's all you need to know. I feel
I've seen it already.
That phenomenon just will not go away. And then, of course, for Tyler Perry fans who want to add a little something, there's Hell Hath No Fury, Like a Woman Scorned, the play, which is also out on DVD, just so that you have something that's not Christmas-themed. This is wonderful. Irving Berlin's White Christmas.
There we go.
There you go. This movie is always fun to watch. And Bing Crosby, Danny Kaye, and along with Rosemary Clooney and Vera Ellen. And this is the Diamond Anniversary Edition. And Paramount has done a wonderful job with this 4-disc set, which on Blu-ray, which includes a 12-song Christmas CD, which has Danny Kaye stuff and Rosemary Clooney and Bing Crosby stuff. Jingle Bells with Danny Kaye and Peggy Lee is fantastic. So this is just beautiful, and this is being released in honor of the 60th anniversaries of White Christmas and Danny Kaye's appointment as a UNICEF very first Goodwill ambassador for UNICEF. And there are donations that are going to be made to UNICEF when you buy this. So it goes to a good cause as well. And Danny Kaye, you just can't go wrong with Danny Kaye and Bing Crosby, for my money at least.
Bing Crosby especially.
Yeah.
He's an icon.
Not everybody loves that movie, though. I'll tell you. Not everyone loves that movie. A King Family Christmas. This is 4 holiday specials from the King family, who doesn't do them anymore, but I grew up on these things. So you get a couple of Thanksgiving specials and a couple of Christmas specials. And, of course, the King family was one of those staples at the time. Their Christmas special, always really a holiday treat. Here's another must-get. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the Rankin Bass Special. Its 50th anniversary collector's edition. It's been 50 years since this thing was made.
Awesome.
And it still kills. It is still awesome. It is still as wonderful as it always was. And my daughter's going to be watching this very soon. Once Thanksgiving's over, it's nonstop. It's all the Rankin Bass stuff. It's the Frosty the Snowman, which is also Rankin Bass. It's the Charlie Brown Christmas.
Yeah.
All that stuff. She's going to start getting the dose of everything from yesteryear. You betcha. It's wonderful. I can't wait for her to start singing, put one foot in front of the other from Santa Claus is Coming to Town. It's great. So anyway, this has all sing-along songs and great little pop-up book included. It's just fantastic. So that's the 50th anniversary of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And then real quickly, Cartoon Network Holiday Collection. A bunch of things from Cartoon Network, from Adventure Time and The Amazing World of Gumball, and a couple of bonus episodes from some other shows. Kind of throwaway ththing. Also for the kids, Power Rangers Megaforce Robo Night Before Christmas. Are you kidding me? Mira Sorvino, Ed Asner, and Drake Bell do the voices in Frozen Time, which is a cute little animated ditty. This is from Arc Entertainment. It's only 46 minutes long. I wouldn't call it a Christmas classic, but it's diverting for the kids. The Garfield Holiday Collection is an exclusive for people who shop at Walmart, which is probably going to get boycotted pretty heavily for Thanksgiving from the sounds of it.
Really? Why is that?
Just people feel like they owe the Walmart workers they're gonna pick at them and say you need to pay your people better and not work them for 48 straight hours over Thanksgiving or something.
Oh, that thing.
That thing.
I think that Walmart workers would go back to work if they promised not to stock this movie. Because Garfield is terrible, and all the Garfield movies are terrible. I'm sorry.
This has Garfield Christmas, Garfield's Thanksgiving, Garfield's Halloween Adventure, Garfield on the Town, and Garfield in Paradise. Marquez Garfield.
Cats don't eat lasagna. I mean, how does that? What does that do with anything?
I don't know. Santa's Magic Toy Bag is a little thing that is from the people who created Alf on television. It's a new little animated special with basically, trying to do a new puppet special with Santa as a puppet and his elves, and it's okay. It's not, I wouldn't call it brilliant, but it was done roughly around the same time as Alf. It was like early '80s, so you feel like they were definitely trying to capitalize. Alpha and Omega, a Howl-iday adventure on Blu-ray and DVD with Ultraviolet for people who love the Alpha and Omega movies. Tickety Talk, Christmas Present Time. Tickety Talk isn't something that I'm enormously fond of, but the animation certainly does lend itself to doing something that feels kind of holiday-like. So you get a number of episodes here, including Christmas Present Time, Winter Time, Snow Time, Igloo Time, and Leaf Sweeping Time. And then Julius Jr. is a show that I just really it creeps me out a little bit. It's like Adventure Time. The animation's wrong. But he's a monkey, and this is called Julius Jr. Snow Monkey Adventures. Comes with little toy Julius. So if you have a child who wants a little toy Julius, this is all right. This is in the season and comes with a toy and has 6 episodes, and it'll keep them busy. And Mark, I think now would be a good time for us to throw, before we finish off the Christmas stuff, let's throw to Alonzo to tell us, to share some of his Christmas expertise.
Happy holidays, everybody. This is Alonzo Duralde, author of Have Yourself a Movie Little Christmas. In thinking about movie trivia, which certainly fans of films like to get into and figure out all the little interlocking secrets and weird little fun facts, there's definitely no shortage of that when it comes to holiday movies. For example, take It's a Wonderful Life, that American favorite. Of course, Thomas Mitchell plays Uncle Billy in the movie, but did you know that he originally auditioned to play mean old Mr. Potter? He eventually lost that role to Lionel Barrymore, of course, but then Lionel Barrymore was famous for playing Scrooge on the radio every year, so it seemed like a natural fit. Of course, Henry Travers also appears in that film as George Bailey's guardian angel Clarence. George Bailey, you'll recall at the end of the movie, runs past the local movie theater and yells, "Merry Christmas, movie house!" And on the marquee is the Bells of St. Mary's. Well, that might have been an inside joke, because Henry Travers actually stars in The Bells of St. Mary's as the mean old rich guy who the nuns, led by Ingrid Bergman, eventually convinced to donate property so that they can build a new school and convent. We think of Bing Crosby as the king of Christmas movies, but I would make an argument that he might have passed that crown along to John Cusack, who stars in 3 very different holiday films. First of all, Rob Reiner's The Sure Thing, a It Happened One Night styled comedy about 2 college students hitchhiking across country, hating each other and then falling in love. Cusack later starred in Better Off Dead, a dark comedy about a high school student who threatens suicide when his girlfriend dumps him. Much of that film is set at Christmas and contains some very memorable holiday set pieces. And most recently, he was in the exceedingly dark comedy The Ice Storm opposite Billy Bob Thornton, one of the last films directed by the late Harold Ramis, which is set entirely on Christmas Eve, but it's about as bleak as holiday stories get. You might check out all 3 of those. They're a lot of fun in very different ways. If you haven't already, please pick up a copy of my book, Have Yourself a Movie Little Christmas. It's currently available at Amazon.com and wherever fine books are sold. But if you'd like to order a copy directly from me, which I'd be happy to sign and send off wherever you want, drop me a line at linoleumpodcast@gmail.com for a personalized gift-wrapped copy that can be sent to anyone in the United States that you'd like to give the gift of Christmas movies to this Christmas season. And if you're in Los Angeles on Wednesday, December 3rd, Frank DeCaro of SiriusXM Radio and I will be hosting an evening called A Movie Little Christmas in Tinseltown. We'll be showing clips from our favorite holiday movies and TV specials, and we'll have special guests like the Ref screenwriter Richard LaGravenese and Bruce Valanche, who wrote the infamous Star Wars Holiday Special, to talk about their Christmas memories. More information can be found on that program at outfest.org. Merry Christmas, everybody.
All right, there you have it. And you know what? Every time I get some Christmas trivia from Alonzo, it's the same thing with like animation stuff from Charles. I feel like I'm in school again and I'm learning all kinds of cool stuff. So Alonzo's he's the man for the holiday season movies. He really is. He knows it all. So we want to give our shout out and our thanks to Alonzo for that. And with that, we are now going to carry on with the remainder of the Christmas movies and our final 2 giveaways. Mark?
Well, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Wait, can I apply for the giveaway?
Yeah. Well, if you want.
Oh, that's mean. I would never do that.
I know. All right. First up, we have got an Evergreen Christmas, and we're going to be giving away 3 of these. This came to us from the good people at Arc Entertainment, and this is really sweet. It's got a great cast, which includes Robert Loggia, who's done everything under the sun, Tyler Ritter, Greer Grammer, Boo Boo Stewart, and Naomi Judd. And this is just one of those really, really sweet new seasonal Christmas things from Evergreen Productions. They made it. Arc Entertainment is releasing it. Totally family-friendly through the whole thing. And it's about a woman who returns back to her small Tennessee town and where her family has this Christmas tree farm because her father has died. And there's, all this stuff that's happening now in the settlement of the estate, and it's putting a stress on the family. And as with all Christmas movies, all holiday movies, the idea is how does the season sort of redeem you and make everything okay? And it's really nicely put together. It's a good cast, and it's a really sweet film, especially if you want to see beautiful Tennessee environs. It's all put together very, very nicely. So an evergreen Christmas, and we're giving away 3 of those. Send us an email to gods@digigods.com. gods@digigods.com. Remember, you can only enter one of the contests, so don't enter all 3. Only enter one. And just put green. Just green. Green in the subject. Put your name and your address in the body of the email. And we will select 3 very lucky people to receive this. And as long as we get them by let's say the 29th. I'll give people until Saturday if you got a Thanksgiving hangover. So sometime get your emails dated on the 29th, and we'll pick our winners then. Mark, do you ever watch the Hallmark Channel?
Why in God's green earth? Because you know what, the Hallmark Channel, there are all these TV movies that star like Jenny Garth and these these sitcom actresses who were like hot and young and pretty in like the 70s, but now they're like just eking out work.
Yeah.
Hallmark Channel, they got you covered.
Well, they got them covered with Christmas movies too. My goodness, they got a lot of stuff. They got their holiday collection, signed, sealed, delivered for Christmas with Eric Mabius and Kristen Booth. A Royal Christmas with Lacey Chabert, Stephen Hagen, and Jane Seymour. The 9 Lives of Christmas with Brandon Routh. Gosh, he was Superman once.
And by the way, he was a good Superman. There's nothing wrong with him.
And Gregory Harrison.
Poor guy.
Well, now he's doing the 9 Lives of Christmas. David Hayden Jones, Alan Thicke, and Aaron Krakow in a cookie cutter Christmas, which is kind of embarrassing, but you can live with it. And then the Christmas Ornament with Cameron Matheson and Kelly Martin, and Alicia Witt and Mark Wiebe in a very merry mix-up. Oh, it's so funny! It's a very merry mix-up. It's a mix-up at Christmas time. It's a merry mix-up.
There's nothing funny about it.
Nothing whatsoever. So anyway, this is all part of the Hallmark countdown to Christmas. It's just they crank this stuff out, and they're all okay. They're not brilliant, but I watched a few of them for a few minutes. They all have kind of the same general.
You know what? It's for 55-year-old women who live in trailer parks, who sit there with their ice cream, their dryers, and go, "When in Hallmark films, I love them so much."
Yeah.
Wait, honey, when you go to Walmart, maybe see if they have one of those Hallmark movies in the discount bin.
You like Belle? You like dogs?
Doggies!
Belle for Christmas.
So dumb.
This Christmas is all about puppy love.
Stupid dog.
It's a dog movie with Haley Duff and Christy Swanson and Dean Cain. I went to school with Dean Cain. Nice guy.
Dean Cain also does a lot of crap.
He does. He was Superman once, too.
I know. It's the curse.
This is actually kind of cute. When Santa Fell to Earth. This is not bad. This is from Anchor Bay and stars, and this is really cute. Some really good kid actors, and Santa crash lands, and it just gets better and better from there. That's actually not bad. John Denver's The Christmas Gift. This is obviously from quite a while ago because John Denver's been dead a really long time. But they re-release this every year, and this was like mid-80s that they made this, like 85, 86. And it's John Denver is associated with snow because his name is Denver, and he made Christmas specials and Christmas movies, and that one always comes back around. Here's a couple other classics, too. The Thanksgiving Treasure and The House Without a Christmas Tree, both on one set. Jason Robards, always a wonderful, wonderful presence. And this is good. This is really good. So I'd definitely pick this up. It's a good one to have around. Happy Christmas. This one I don't know that anybody's really going to... This is a bit of a problem. This is Anna Kendrick and Melanie Linsky and Lena Dunham in a movie called Happy Christmas from Joe Swanberg. And I'm not a fan of Joe Swanberg. I don't really like his movies. I think they're all kind of hacky and thrown together. And this is a very weird, awkward cast, and it just doesn't feel very Christmassy. So if you're a fan of Joe Swanberg and his whole kind of, he's sort of like the mumblecore guy who's not a mumblecore guy.
Yeah, he branches out into more, more traditionally scripted entertainments.
Yeah, well, anyway. Lifetime, holiday triple feature, A Country Christmas Story, The 12 Trees of Christmas, and Kristen's Christmas Past. Say that 10 times quickly. 3-film collection, if you like the Lifetime approach to the holidays. From the Little House on the Prairie, the original series, a couple of holiday specials here, A Merry Ingalls Christmas. if you just don't want to get the whole show, right? Just get that one. Lost Christmas, another dog movie. The Miracle of Holiday Magic. This has Eddie Izzard in it, of all people, along with Jason Fleming and Larry Mills. Eddie Izzard, there's a guy who does weird stuff, and he's never played Superman. It's very strange. A Star for Christmas is a Christmas romance. It's okay, you know. Dear Santa with Tatiana Ali, Jordan Sparks, and Ernie Hudson. Huh?
Ernie Hudson. He's been interviewed a lot for the 30th anniversary of whatever it is of Ghostbusters.
That's right.
And he was saying how his part was it was a big part. He was one of in the original script.
Yeah.
He was one of the original Ghostbusters. He joined the group along with everybody else.
Yeah.
And then he gets to set and he reads the new pages, and it turns out he doesn't show up till 20 minutes into it.
But he has some great lines.
Oh, he's great.
He is great.
He said Bill Murray was very protective, and Bill Murray wound up giving him some lines that was for Murray.
Yeah.
Like when you remember at the end after the big fight, he goes, "I love New York." That was for "I love this town."
Yeah.
That was given to another actor, one of the other Ghostbusters,
great.
but then it was given to Ernie because it's like, hey man, let's give it to Ernie.
That's great. Good for them. Ernie's great. And then North Pole is as one word. This has with Tiffany Thiessen and Bailey Madison and Robert Wagner, and it's Jill St. John's in this too. It's a cute little kind of fantasy thing, but it kind of stretches it a little bit. And then Oh Christmas Tree with Sarah Lancaster and Eric Johnson. This is kind of another one of those kind of cheesy Christmas romances. And then of course my favorite, Peppa Pig, Peppa's Christmas. 12 episodes, including the Christmas episode, Peppa's Christmas, which is just so much fun. It has great Christmas music, and it's got a whole different intro to it. And my daughter can't get enough of Peppa Pig. She cries if Peppa Pig isn't on. She just loves Peppa, the whole world of Peppa Pig. So good stuff. So that's there as well. And now for our final giveaway. Mark, you're going to love this. So we just mentioned 4 of those. And we're going to give away a package of The 9 Lives of Christmas, a Cookie Cutter Christmas, a Royal Christmas, and Signed, Sealed, Delivered for Christmas. All 4 of those to one person. 9 Lives of Christmas, a Cookie Cutter Christmas, a Royal Christmas, and Signed, Sealed, Delivered for Christmas. All 4. That package goes to one person. You can only enter one giveaway. So if you want the 4 Christmas movies in one package, one person wins that. Send an email to gods@digigods.com. And put 4 F-O-U-R in the subject line. Just F-O-U-R. That's all we need. 4, and your name and address in the body of the email. And by the weekend of the 29th, we will 29th and 30th. If you get it to us by the 29th, we'll pick that weekend, and then we will get that off to the powers that be on December 1st. And you should have your 4 Christmas movie DVD package sometime before the holidays. Fingers crossed. If it comes on New Year's, don't blame us, but I will do my best to impress upon them that they need to get these out to you on time. All right, Mark, we're closing in on the end of the show here.
That 2-hour show, Wade. It's like a bonanza.
It is. It's fantastic, right? And we still have Leonard Maltin to come. I know. Right?
Yeah, let me tell you something. We're saving the best for last.
We sure are.
Because we love Leonard.
Leonard's the man. All right, a few other things here. Branching into classic movies, we got a ton of classic movie suggestions for you for your gifts this season. Some wonderful stuff that is coming out right now, stuff that's recently come out, stuff that's just themed perfectly for the season. Mark, you want to start us off?
What if I don't want to?
Maybe you should.
Okay. Well, because you said so. We have some old stuff. We also have some modern stuff. Let's do the modern stuff first. Actually, 2 of my favorite Robert Altman films. On Blu-ray, The Long Goodbye. One of my favorite Robert Altman films. This is his sort of modern updating of the Philip Marlowe aesthetic, where we have Elliot Gould playing Philip Marlowe as this disheveled guy who just walks up and down the aisles of supermarkets, wondering where he can get food for his cat, while also dealing with this other case regarding Sterling Hayden and Nina Van Paladin. I never saw her again. I don't know who that was, but she was great in the movie. So it's a really good film. It's very cool. It's got a couple of featurettes on it and 5 radio spots for some reason. But it's a great. You know what? Paul Thomas Anderson's new film Inherent Vice is definitely a kind of an homage to The Long Goodbye.
I still have to see that.
I know you haven't seen it yet. But it's great stuff. It was the screenplay was written by Lee Brackett, who of course also had a credit on Empire Strikes Back, and also wrote The Big Sleep. So it's fantastic. I love The Long Goodbye. It's a great film. Also, one of my favorite Altman films, Thieves Like Us, with Keith Carradine and Shelley Duvall. It's about these bank robbers running around Mississippi during the Depression. This is around the 1930s. Keith Carradine's great. Shelley Duvall was always sort of a strange-looking young lady, but and she looked strange when she was young, too. But she's the same Shelley Duvall, of course, from The Shining. And here we have an audio commentary from director Robert Altman, so that's definitely good. He's very forthcoming about how he casts his movies and how they're made. So this is good, too. Thieves Like Us, one of my favorite Robert Altman films. So 2 good Robert Altman films on Blu-ray. Witness to Murder is also on Blu-ray. Barbara Stanwyck and Gary Merrill are in this. This is a good film. It's one of those... It's got that interesting, cool noir thing. It's got great noir lighting because it's about this woman who she's trying to convince the police that she saw a murder, and so that's kind of how it starts. But it's a little similar to Rear Window, and it's good. It's a good film called Witness to Murder. Gotta love that. Sean Connery and Trevor Howard in The Offense. This is this is an interesting film from Sidney Lumet. Sidney Lumet. Obviously, as you know, was very much about the gritty streets of New York and crime and morality and that kind of stuff. And here he works with Sean Connery, which is kind of a different actor for him to work with, but it kind of works. Connery plays he's a British detective, and he's hanging out in New York. And so it's a good film. Trevor Howard's good in it. Pocket Full of Miracles with Glenn Ford, Bette Davis. This one, also from Kino, directed by Frank Capra, who of course directed.
Everything.
It's a Wonderful Life and all sorts of other things,
including the next thing I'm going to talk about.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Good stuff. It's funny and whimsical and cool and very very Christmas oriented. Pocket Full of Miracles.
And as long as we're talking about Frank Capra, we want to make mention of this amazing new Blu-ray release from Sony. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Obviously, everybody's going to be watching It's a Wonderful Life again this season, but you know what? One of Capra's best films, maybe even his best film for my money, is Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Jimmy Stewart just kills it. This is sort of considered the quintessential American political movie. Every time election season rolls around, how many people say, "Where is our Mr. Smith?" It's just absolutely wonderful. The average guy who is selected to be a political pawn and turns out to be this pillar of integrity, and it's really you learn a lot about the American political system from this film. The way it's integrated, it's beautiful. And this comes in basically a Blu-ray book thing. They've remastered this recently in 4K, and this Blu-ray is a down convert from the 4K. And it is gorgeous. It is just spectacularly beautiful. Comes with ultraviolet if you want to carry Mr. Smith around with you. And let's say you get elected to Congress and you want to, pull up the ultraviolet on your phone and show it to people and say, this is what you should be behaving like. It's all great. Tons of special features. Commentary by Frank Capra Jr. Frank Capra's American Dream, the feature-length documentary that was hosted by Ron Howard, is on here as well. That's worth its, you could buy. That's like 2 movies in one. And then a whole bunch of featurettes that are just wonderful. Give little family reminiscences and look into it's just wonderful. It's really great. So that's a Blu-ray book style Blu-ray release finally of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. One of the best things you will have available all Christmas season. A bunch of stuff now from Twilight Time. The latest Twilight Time releases for the holiday season are superb. And every single one of these, remember, you can only get them by going to screenarchives.com. And there are only 3,000 a piece of these. So when they're gone, as they say. Judgment at Nuremberg, great movie. Such a great movie. This thing's gotten a little unfairly maligned in recent years because it's like hip to make fun of Stanley Kramer now because he was so on the nose and he was so issue-oriented. But this is a great movie, 1961, an award-winning masterpiece about the Nuremberg trials. And it's an all-star cast, and it's classic Hollywood stuff at its best. The Oscar-nominated Yoji Yamada Japanese film, The Twilight Samurai, which was one of my favorite films of that year, from 2002. Really, really good. Now out on Blu-ray. I think this is a really interesting selection for Twilight Time. This is, a total surprise from the Twilight Time library, but I think a really, really good choice. A film you may not have heard of, When the Wind Blows. This is from the 1980s. It's an animated film about a British couple dealing with a nuclear holocaust. And it's chilling and touching and frightening and hilarious, and it's so good, it's mind-boggling. And I'm amazed that this film kind of has fallen off of the radar a little bit. It's a little, it feels like a little bit of British animation, a little bit of anime. It's really, really good. It's really good, and that's on Blu-ray as well. I highly recommend that. You may not think a nuclear holocaust movie is what you want to watch for the holiday season, but trust me, this one you do. Distinguished by a really good script, co-written by Nunnally Johnson, is the Don Siegel Western Flaming Star, starring an unlikely Elvis Presley as someone who's half Indian and half Caucasian, and it's not bad. It's got a commentary by Nick Redman and Lem Dobbs. Lem Dobbs, of all people. He's listed here as a film historian. It's Lem Dobbs. He's a filmmaker.
He works with Soderbergh.
Yeah, he's Lem Dobbs. He's a screenwriter. He's directed, too, hasn't he? Didn't Lem Dobbs direct something? I thought he directed something.
I'll have to look that up.
He wrote Kafka. He wrote Kafka.
And The Limey.
And The Limey. So anyway, here he's just playing the role of film historian, and that, again, for the people who can't get enough of Elvis. And Bunny Lake is missing. It ages well, I think. This is an Otto Preminger film from 1965, and with Laurence Olivier and Keir Dullea and Noel Coward in one of his final performances. And you know what? I mean, this is...
this has, Preminger during that time, this has a certain amount of historical significance because at that time in the early to mid-'60s, Preminger was almost single-handedly, of course he wasn't, but almost single-handedly making the production code completely ridiculous.
That's true. That's true.
Because he would do films like this and The Moon is Blue.
He's so good on Batman when he plays Mr. Freeze. There were 3 different guys played Mr. Freeze, but he was the best.
He was the best.
Wild!
Like Anatomy of a Murder, Moon is Blue, Bunny Lake is missing. That's all that stuff. They just chipped away at the production code.
Totally true. So anyway, and of course, really all of these have isolated score tracks, and that's a particularly good one. And then the last one here, just because it kind of dovetails with something else, is Birdman of Alcatraz, with a wonderful performance by Burt Lancaster. This is still, one of the great films of the era from 1962, same year as, of course, Lawrence of Arabia, and it's great. It's just really great. Beautifully, fantastic score by Elmer Bernstein, which is fantastic, and one of the best films that John Frankenheimer ever made. And that has nothing to do with Birdman, the Michael Keaton film from Gonzalez Iñárritu, which is getting all the Oscar buzz, which is like your favorite film of the year so far.
That's my number one so far.
There you go.
Wade, do we have any? Wade, we are.
No, go ahead, fire off.
Okay, we have My Man Godfrey. This is one of the great screwball comedies of all time from 1936. We have 2 sisters going on a scavenger hunt, like this elaborate scavenger hunt is part of like this big, big high stakes party, and they wind up running into a homeless guy played by William Powell, and they bring the homeless guy home. He winds up becoming their butler, and it is so funny. It has just got so much energy to it and hilarious, and it was nominated for 6 Oscars. You can't beat that. My Man Godfrey classic.
Carry on.
And also from Film Detective, we have The Stranger. Now, I'm surprised this did not come out via a bigger distributor, to be honest with you. But this is Orson Welles' I believe, 3rd film. One of the last films that he did where you got a sense of this is the actual film he wanted to make.
Yep.
And, of course, that wound up changing a lot as his career went on. But this is a really interesting noir thriller. Orson Welles, it's about a Nazi who disguises himself as a high school teacher. And it's really good. Edward G. Robinson is great in it, and Wells, of course, plays the Nazi. And really good stuff. Stranger is good, overlooked Wells. Finally, we have Kansas City Confidential, and this is a really overlooked noir. This is fun stuff. It's about these bank robbers. They rob an armored truck, and then this delivery driver winds up taking the rap for it, and he's got to figure out who is framing him. It's kind of a no-name cast, at least as far as we're concerned, directed by Phil Carlson, but really good noir stuff, man. This is fun. Kansas City Confidential from 1952.
Awesome. And then we've got a few here from the Warner Archive Collection. Another Blu-ray, a surprising choice for a Warner Archive Collection Blu-ray, as they often are, frankly, which is a good thing. They always surprise me. I'm like, wow, that's really an interesting choice for Blu-ray. Jack Webb plays Pete Kelly in Pete Kelly's Blues. A fantastic Warner Color CinemaScope production that has kind of been from the early part of the widescreen era from 1955. I mean, that was like the last year that a non-widescreen film won Best Picture. The next year it was Around the World in 80 Days. So this is really pushing the envelope as far as widescreen and music, and it's all about Pete Kelly, who was a cornetist for the in Kansas City at the height of the jazz era. And really, a really sharp film, very much ahead of its time. Jack Webb directed this and really proves himself. You realize, wow, this guy's a talent. You suddenly understand why Dragnet was, a big deal on television. It's a sharp film and a historically significant film, and really beautifully done. So Janet Leigh, Edmund O'Brien, Peggy Lee, and of course Jack Webb in Pete Kelly's Blues. And then other Warner Archive releases include the Martin and Lewis collection, volumes 1 and 2. Tons of great Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin stuff on here. 6 discs. Actually, 7 discs. 7 discs on these 2 different volumes. And, Hollywood or Bust is probably my favorite of all of them. But it's just, they're all fun. They're all really, really fun. So you can really surprise a Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin fan with the volumes 1 and 2 of that. And then there's a couple from the when things moved from the silent era to the sound era. We've got a couple of really interesting films here, also from the Warner Archive collection. The Cossacks with John Gilbert, which is a really slick production. I mean, directed by George Hill. Very, very early sound production based on a novel by Leo Tolstoy. And this is just really fantastic. And then the wonderful Colleen Moore in Why Be Good, an old Vitaphone First National picture, which just gets you so nostalgic about what movies were at that time. It's pre-digital, pre-computers, and they're telling these great stories. And then here's one that you shouldn't let slip by. Warner Archive, of course, comes out with a number of titles just about every week. And it's very easy to miss this John Guillermin film called The Day They Robbed the Bank of England. It's very easy to go, oh, yeah, whatever. It sounds, John Guillermin, he directed a bunch of stupid movies in the 70s, like the King Kong remake and some other stuff. Who cares, right? No. Do you know why this movie's significant, Mark?
Because it has a yellow cover?
No. This movie featured a very young stage actor in its cast by the name of Peter O'Toole. And it was while he was watching this film that director David Lean, who had been looking for someone to play Lawrence of Arabia and had given up on Marlon Brando and basically had given up on Albert Finney, said, that's my guy. That small part that Peter O'Toole had in this movie changed his life, because based on that, he was cast as Lawrence of Arabia, introducing Peter O'Toole. This is the movie that introduced him. But Lawrence of Arabia got an Oscar nomination, superstar. The rest is history.
Yeah, see, well, now they're all dead. See, so it didn't really help at all.
Oh, I guess not. And, I want to do a big shout-out right now to Flicker Alley. Flicker Alley is a boutique, as long as we're talking about silent films and early films. Flicker Alley does primarily silent stuff, but also film historical and archival stuff. Flicker Alley has some unbelievable titles that we've got to do a shout-out to. This is great stuff. Film history stuff, silent comedy. If you really, really want to impress somebody, these things are not necessarily on everybody's, top radar with when Lord of the Rings and all this other crap and the Hobbit and everything else comes out. This is the stuff that you should be focusing on. The Max Sennett Collection, Volume 1, 50 fantastic classic Max Sennett shorts with some great bonus materials on Blu-ray from Flicker Alley. Hilarious and wonderful. The late Matthias Pascal is a French silent film from Marcel L'Herbier, and this is part of the Black Hawk Films collection. This is also on Blu-ray. This is a very influential film, really cool and highly stylized. The amazing Robert Flaherty film Nanook of the North, considered sort of the original documentary. Robert Flaherty staged a lot of this very famously, but nonetheless, this is a 2-disc Blu-ray deluxe edition of that film, which also includes The Wedding of Paulo and other films of Arctic life. Beautiful, beautiful transfer on all of this stuff. That one especially. I just could not believe how pristine it looked. The Lon Chaney Hunchback of Notre Dame, also on Blu-ray from the Black Hawk Films collection. Another fantastic transfer. As much as I love the sound version of the Hunchback of Notre Dame, man, Lon Chaney just kills it in this. This is just terrifying. I mean, this is absolutely so haunting. It's like I can't even look at the book now without suddenly seeing images from this thing. 1923, truly a silent masterpiece. The one that just is so important are the Chaplin Mutual comedies, which have been out on DVD for a long time. But these are all now remastered from 1916 and 17 on Blu-ray. Thank you, Flicker Alley. What an incredible job you've done. This comes in a gorgeous tin. This thing would be such a fantastic gift. Anybody who loves Chaplin and doesn't realize that Chaplin's out on Blu-ray, and especially the Chaplin Mutuals, this is like the best thing that they could open on Christmas Day. It's amazing. Beautiful transfers. And not on Blu-ray, but really important to have on DVD, because this is not available anywhere else, are the 34 films that comprise Charlie Chaplin's days at Keystone and doing the Keystone comedies. And this is a crucial piece of Chaplin's career to understand. And this comes in a wonderful 4-disc set on DVD. Hopefully will be on Blu-ray at some point soon, but if not, it certainly does not look shabby here. It looks great. And then lastly, courtesy of Flicker Alley and Twilight Time, we are now celebrating Cinerama, and we're getting very close to the anniversary of Cinerama, and rather significant anniversary of Cinerama. And it was, people forget what an amazing format this was at the time. The curved screen and the multiple cameras and all of this stuff. So we have a couple from Flicker Alley here are 7 Wonders of the World and Search for Paradise. I mean, these things are basically travel logs. And those are just unbelievably gorgeous. Beautiful Blu-ray transfers, the way they are meant to be. Get them up on the widescreen. Show people how amazing Cinerama was, even if it's not sort of true Cinerama. It's as close as you're going to get. Better than IMAX, I might add. Screw that IMAX stuff. Cinerama was where it's at. And tons of bonus features here. I mean, there's even one in here that's like going around L.A. It's an old Los Angeles documentary, a Cinerama documentary of touring Los Angeles, Mark.
Well, that's what Cinerama was for. That's why they did those sorts of movies, to show off the format.
I'm going to show this to you later. You're going to be like, oh my, I remember that place. They tore that down. They tore that down. And it's horrifying. You just realize they've torn this entire city down over the last 50 years.
Yeah, well,
everything that was meaningful, they tore it down,
including the public transportation.
And then Twilight Time has released Michael Todd Jr.'s Holiday in Spain, another Cinerama spectacular with Peter Lorre and Denholm Elliott, and this thing is gorgeous. It's wonderful. Now, this, of course, is a narrative film, and it's essentially a widescreen excuse to do a whole kind of a murder plot. And Peter Lorre is getting old and fat here, but he's still really, really good. And this was originally released, by the way, as The Scent of Mystery in the now defunct format Smell-O-Vision. And it goes into detail here and tells you all about Smell-O-Vision. So this is another wonderful blast from the past as far as classic movies goes. And then lastly, before we get into the maestro of classic movies, Leonard Maltin, we've got we want to make mention again of something we reviewed previously, the Gone with the Wind box set, which is gorgeous. This is a limited edition from Warner Brothers, and there should still be quite a few of them out there. This is the extraordinary 75th anniversary edition of Gone with the Wind. And it's incomparable. And then there is also the Steven Spielberg Director's Collection, 8 movies on Blu-ray, Duel, The Sugarland Express, Jaws, 1941, E.T., Always, Jurassic Park, The Lost World Jurassic Park, all on Blu-ray from Universal. It's quite a collection. And there aren't many there that I would say that's crap. I mean, 1941, I think, ages better now. I think it's a funnier film now than it was at the time. And even The Lost World, has its moments. I mean, this is a great collection. So all of that on Blu-ray. And then a final book, if you're a fan of Gone with the Wind, there's also a thing out now called Ruth's Journey, which is an authorized novel that Margaret Mitchell's estate authorized to basically tell the story of Mammy. And it's, kind of a little bit of political correctness to revisit that character and to try to make her a more significant figure in all of this. But still, it's not. It's getting some good write-ups. So we have not read it, but just so you know, Ruth's journey, the legacy of Gone with the Wind continues. And now, Mark, our good friend Leonard Maltin, is moving into the world of podcasting with us. And, of course, this coincides with the discontinuing of his book, the Leonard Maltin's Movie Guide, which in its 2015 edition will be its very last. And I've got one here in my hand, and I'm going to get him to sign this at our voting meeting.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
And Interesting. Then I'm going to frame it. What if I should do the same thing?
You should do that.
You can frame the book? The book's like 800 pages.
It's okay. They make big frames. So here's Leonard.
And it is my privilege to welcome our good friend and colleague Leonard Maltin to our holiday edition of the IGN DigiGods podcast. And Leonard, we are, of course, recommending that people pick up the final edition of your book this year, not just because it's the final edition, but because once there are no more, it's going to become, I think, kind of a rarefied commodity, possibly even on eBay, because people aren't going to stop using it. So give us just a brief sense of what you feel looking back on these last. I mean, it's nearly 40 years, isn't it?
It's over 40 years. I hesitate to add. It's 45 years to be precise. 46 since I signed a contract to do it for the first time when I was still a minor.
Wow.
17 years old, and it's been my whole adult life. Literally my entire adult life I've spent working on this movie guidebook, and I will confess to you fairly openly that it's a big adjustment not to be working on it right now.
I can imagine.
Because working on a reference book of this sort that's a continuous process means you always have to be aware of things. Oh, they're remaking that movie. Okay, I'm going to make a note of that remake. Wait a minute, here's somebody appearing unbilled in this movie. So went to see Gone Girl, and Celia Ward turns up as a TV interviewer, unbilled. All right, normally that would be a note we'd make in the book, et cetera, et cetera. Right. And now I see these things, I observe these things, and I say, well, okay, someone else will have to make note of that.
Wow. Well, let me ask you this now, just so people understand. The book will no longer be published or updated, but the apps will still be available for download, correct? You can still get the app for your iPhone or not?
The app, unfortunately, expired earlier this year for the same reason I think that the book is going away, simply that people not only want in the app, they had it on their iPhones. The book they have to hold in their hand. But I think the other major factor is that people don't want to pay.
Right.
They don't want to pay for this information. IMDb, which is a fantastic resource, it doesn't charge. Their advertiser supported, so it's free.
Right.
It's free to get IMDb. But the problem is, and I use IMDb like everybody else does, but IMDb does not curate its information.
It's so inaccurate so often that I find myself, sometimes going to 3 different sources just to corroborate things that I'm pretty sure aren't true, and I find all kinds of mistakes there all the time.
Well, and that's inevitable. I mean, they work hard. I know they do, but you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes of omission and commission if you're working on something as vast as that. But also, there's no editorial voice, and there's no sense of compressing the information, which is what we tried to do. So if you want to find out who played the best friend in a movie, you look real quickly on IMDb. They may be giving you the cast, as they often do, in order of appearance in the film.
Right.
Wait a minute, I want to know who that third-billed actor was who played the best friend. I can't remember his name. Well, lots of luck to you. You've got to scroll down and try to find it. It's a different approach. It's just a different approach. And again, I don't want to be seen as knocking, my supposed competition because I don't compete with them. They're the 600-pound gorilla. But it's a different way of doing things.
Well, like I said, I think the book is going to be around forever, and I think people then who have the app are certainly going to treasure that app as well if they still have it on any of their devices. I mean, it's going to continue to be a great reference tool. And I was thinking of this, and I don't want to make you feel old, and I don't want to make me feel old, but you really have been doing this for half of the sound era. You have documented and curated half the sound era. I mean, that's really an extraordinary achievement. That's something unprecedented, and I think you can wear that as a real feather in your cap. But I want to move on to this also, and I want people to understand.
I must add that we are working on an updated version of my spin-off book, Leonard Maltin's Classic Movie Guide.
Great.
Which is near and dear to my heart, and which covers films up to 1965. And we'll have a new edition of that out next year, with something like 300 new entries, films we've not covered before that are either now available on DVD or turn up on Turner Classic Movies or Fox Movie Channel, and so I'm very pleased about that.
And that helps me segue into the next point, which is I don't want anyone to think that because the book is going away, you're going away. You're still going strong, and your expertise will still be available, and you're moving now into podcasting, which I think I want all of our subscribers to know because they are podcast junkies, and I'm sure a lot of them will very quickly migrate over and subscribe to yours as well. So tell us about the new podcasting effort.
This idea sort of came to me by some nice people at a company called Midroll that has been producing a series of comedy podcasts under the umbrella title Earwolf. And some of your listeners may already listen to some of these very good Earwolf shows. Well, they got Paul Scheer, a very bright comedian and actor, to curate and assemble a new collective of popular culture podcasts under the umbrella title Wolf Pop. And all of the Wolf Pop shows, 13 new shows, just debuted, I guess, 2 weeks ago, same as mine did. And they asked me if I'd be interested in doing something, and I said yes. And they said, what would you think about teaming up with a comedian? And I said yes. And they suggested a very bright fellow who's not only a comedian but a talented actor named Baron Vaughn. So we met, and we hit it off right away. He's a big movie buff and very articulate and very funny. And we just clicked. So we are now engaged in a weekly podcast called Maltin on Movies with Baron Vaughn. And I said, I don't want to review new movies. Too many other people are doing that, and why jump into that pond knowing that? So what we do is every week we pick a topic triggered by a new movie and talk about 3 films that usually one good movie, one not so good movie, and one sleeper. So for our first show, we took The Theory of Everything as our inspiration for talking about biopics. And then the next week, because of Interstellar, we talked about Matthew McConaughey movies. One really good one turkey, and one sleeper.
Huh.
And we're since we're making up our own rules as we go along, our conversation wanders sometimes onto other and tangential subjects, and we just have a good time talking. We like talking about movies, and if you like listening to people talking about movies, I hope you'll give it a try. It's called Maltin on Movies. You can find it on iTunes, or you can find it at wolfpop.com.
Well, it sounds like you're determined to improve our movie IQ continually, which I think was always the hallmark of the book. Our common friend and colleague Ray Green, when he did a lovely piece about you in the book for Off Ramp on NPR, he interviewed Robert Abley and he interviewed me, and it forced me to kind of think about some of the things that you have meant. And I've never told you this before, but it was really interesting when I first kind of started getting into film criticism because growing up in Los Angeles, and not to sort of smear anyone who a name, but I'm going to say Gary Franklin was for a very long time and for a certain part of my youth the iconic.
It's okay.
Okay, so he was like the iconic figure, and when I first was exposed to you,
we should stop and explain for people who don't remember.
Well, Gary Franklin was the television critic in Los Angeles, and he had a shaved head, and he had his 10 scale, and he gave every movie a ranking from 1 to 10, and it's at a certain point it got to be every movie was 10 plus. and the scale seemingly had no meaning. And he was sort of bombastic and a little over enthusiastic, and not in any way scholarly about his approach to movies. And I was familiar with your book, but then you showed up on Entertainment Tonight talking about movies, and it was like a reawakening. It was suddenly an awareness that someone could talk professionally and in a mature way about movies. And my first thought was, well, this guy's not at all like Gary Franklin. And that was
they forced me to do a 1 to 10 scale too.
But it was beside the point, And it was and I learned a great deal from watching you and from reading you, and so it thrills me that you're continuing to dip back into the older movies, because I have, and this is something I just want to touch on briefly, I have a problem with the way that movies are being treated as disposable. And we talk about this on our podcast a lot, in that some of the studios, many of the studios, really don't have a reverence for their libraries. They sort of turn them over to third-party DVD companies like Olive and Twilight Time, and in the case of Paramount, they're letting Warner kind of handle the library because they don't think people care enough. Could you just talk for a second about, why people really do need to care about those classic movies that you're going to be talking about?
Well, I find it interesting. I've said this before. Forgive me if it's sounding redundant in any way, but it's only movies that get referred to as old. No one talks about that old Shakespeare play Romeo and Juliet, or that old Mark Twain novel Huckleberry Finn, or that old Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Those are accepted as part of our ongoing cultural identity and awareness. But movies, because they are a commercial form first, and an art form in most people's eyes only incidentally, do get treated in a disposable fashion. And people only seem to be attuned to what's current and what's happening right now, and that includes the studios. And there's no educational component in this. Look on television, search the television dial, and including the 2000 channel universe or whatever it is now, and try to find an intelligent discussion show or interview show dealing with films or filmmakers or film history. You will search in vain. There ain't no such thing. It's a very curious entity, motion picture in our American culture. I think it's no secret that it's more respected overseas. France, notably, being a country that took American film seriously before Americans did. So we live in that atmosphere, and I think it's too bad, because there's a great irony here. The irony is that we live at a time when there's never been more accessibility. We've never had the opportunity to see or acquire as many films as we can right now, but not as many people care about them. When I was growing up, I won't go into that too much, because a lot of things I say begin with, when I was growing up. But truly, when I was growing up, before there was such a thing as home video, a concept my daughter, when she was young, could not believe existed. I sometimes would force myself, this is when I was in junior high school and high school, I'd sometimes force myself to go to sleep early, set the alarm for 2:15 a.m., wake up, tiptoe over to the TV set, and turn on the volume softly so as not to wake up the household, in order to see some rare film from the 30s that I could not otherwise see. And then I'd try to get back to sleep and be awake for school in the morning, which was always a bit of a struggle, but it was worth it to see some of these movies. Yeah. That's how hard it was to get to see a lot of films and to try to build a personal history with them. And now you can get darn near anything, but the interest level has receded.
I think it's like anything else. The scarcity of it is what makes something precious. It's like gold, and when something is suddenly easy and accessible, you take it for granted. I mean, I think of that just living with how many. We have great museums 30 minutes away, but I don't go to museums unless I'm traveling, because I take the ones in my backyard for granted. And I think
well, yes, that's true. And there also, I cannot deny that there was also a certain thrill of the chase.
Yeah.
In tracking down a rare film. Instead of just hitting a few keystrokes and having it on your computer.
Well, it sounds like this podcast is going to be a fantastic thing going forward. So I for one, am really looking forward to it, and I would encourage all of our listeners to migrate over there as well. And just to wrap this up, then, since this is our holiday podcast, and we want to shine, it's always a great time to rediscover old movies and obscure movies and anything related to the season that's not necessarily being promoted. So, what are from Thanksgiving all the way through Christmas and New Year's and everything in between? What are some of the movies in your mind that are real standouts that people should make an effort to watch over the season?
Well, as you know, they haven't shown us most of these yet. So we're in a situation right now where we're curious and hopeful. And
what about classic movies? What about stuff on DVD and Blu-ray and streaming and things that they can probably go seek out, just even sitting at home? Anything that's on your all-time favorite list?
Well, when it comes to holiday movies, I'm afraid my tastes are pretty conventional. I love the same ones many people do: Miracle on 34th Street and Holiday Inn with Bing Crosby and Fred Astaire. And I'm not a fan of White Christmas, but don't tell
Which
anybody.
just came out in a new Blu-ray version.
Yes, they keep improving the look of it, the sound of it, but they just can't improve the movie. But there are all sorts of films people don't think about. I was very fond of a film that came out a little while ago called Joyeux Noël.
Oh, yes.
About a Christmas truce during World War I. And it's not a literal true story, but it is inspired by true incidents, real-life things that did happen during the fighting of World War I, when it was trench warfare, and where, in this case, in the film, soldiers from 3 different countries found themselves within shouting distance of each other, shouting distance.
It's a very good film. It's in French and English and German. And the English, of course, they're Scottish soldiers, if memory serves, aren't they?
Yes.
So it might as well be a foreign language.
Yeah.
It's
awfully good.
It is a very good film.
And that's the kind of thing I tell people. If you've seen all the obvious ones and want something fresh, try that. Or a wonderful film called Remember the Night that was written in 1940 by Preston Sturges and directed by Mitchell Leisen with Barbara Stanwyck and Fred MacMurray, which has sort of been discovered in recent years. Turner Classic Movies did a new DVD release of it a year or two back, and it's about a district attorney in New York who's going home to the Midwest, I believe, for the holidays, and he's just busted Barbara Stanwyck, and she's going to be in a holding pen over the holidays during a recess. And having a soft spot in his heart, he decides to take her home with him.
Oh, that's great.
For the holidays. And she's very hard-boiled, and he takes her home to this idyllic homestead with a loving family and something she's never experienced. And it works so well because if you're cynical at all, well, she is your sort of your avatar in the film because she's a cynic, but she is won over by the genuineness of the warmth and the family feelings in MacMurray's home. It's a lovely film. Remember the Night.
That is one we are definitely going to put on. My wife cannot get enough of Barbara Stanwyck, so that's
and she's wonderful in it.
That's a no-brainer in our household. Well, Leonard, thank you so much for speaking with us, and best of luck going forward with all the new endeavors. We're all looking forward to them very eagerly, and we'll chat with you again soon.
Thank you, and if you're lonely for me anytime, you can go to leonardmalton.com.
Great. Thanks, Leonard.
Thanck you, Wade.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, our good friend Leonard. So we wish him well with his podcasting endeavors. And before we wrap this show out, the last thing I wanted to put a special exclamation point on is this amazing thing that I discovered. This is not a DVD or a Blu-ray or a book. This is a thing called Hubbit. Mark, do you know what Hubbit is?
I do not, but you're about to tell me.
I'm about to tell you. I have been on. Here's what I've been looking for. I've been looking for something that will work with my computer and with the home theater system, as far as sort of being my one solution for not just being a USB hub, like a USB 3.0 hub, where you can connect a lot of USB devices either to the home theater if you want, like let's say you've got a little flash drive, right, that has video on it, right? So, and you've got a home theater component that has that takes the video, whether it's a Blu-ray player or a receiver or whatever it is. Or on my computer, something that takes all the different 3.0 input devices, but one that will also charge them, not at some measly thing, but like a 2-amp charge, like a full plug-it-in-the-wall, charge your phone fast kind of charge. Why? Because I'm converting my whole home theater to an automated app that does like one-stop master remote control. You just had a guy hook up your one-stop remote control system. Took hours, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a universal remote now.
Yeah.
It took him 2 hours to figure out how to program the universal remote.
Well, I'm moving to a thing called a Roomy Remote, which is an app, and it's got in-app purchases, and it's supposed to be this thing where once you get it going, it controls everything. But it's you use it on your phone or you use it on your iPad. Well, I want to charge those things, so I need something that will not just be my USB interface, but will also let me charge these things. I couldn't find anything out there that did what I needed to do, which would do full speed charging on all ports. In this case, there's 7 of them, and which would also be a full blown hub for connectivity. Hubit is that thing. It's a remarkable device, and it's kind of these guys, they make, the modules are great. You open it up, you pop it up, you got modules that you can replace, and they can connect USB to USB, the mini USB, or it'll be any of the Apple connectors. They make all these little module connectors, so it's not just like USB ports. They have connectors, and you specifically use that to plug devices in. And you can overload it. I mean, it only has so much stuff. You're not going to plug in like 5 iPads and charge them all. But you'll charge a couple of phones and an iPad and maybe a few other devices, and you can still have connectivity to load some video. It's really amazing. And it's one of the most extraordinary things I've ever seen. And I think these guys have come up with something that'll be like one of the greatest Christmas gifts that you could give to anybody that's looking for something to enhance their home theater or to enhance their computer system. It's a dock, and it's a charging station, and it's all those things, and it's the best one you're going to find out there. And the modules make it infinitely expandable, and they upgrade their firmware, and lots of great surprises in store in the future for this thing. So this is gear that you need to have just going forward for your home theater, absolutely, and for your computer, absolutely. Hubit is available. You can look on Amazon.com. You can Best Buy's got it. You can get more information on it by going to eggtronic.com, EGGTRONIC, eggtronic.com. It's an extraordinary piece of equipment. So I highly recommend that. And with that, our holiday show marathon is over. We hope you enjoyed it. Have a great Thanksgiving and a fantastic Christmas. We're going to try to get another show under our belts after our LAFCA voting in early December.
Well, we have to. We have to gossip about what happened during the voting meeting.
We do. So we'll score another show sometime mid-December. Not sure exactly when, but look for that. And then after that, we're going to go on hiatus till the beginning of the year. So with that, we're going to take you out with the amazing theme song for WKRP in Cincinnati. Now the complete series out on DVD.
I'm living on the air in Cincinnati, WKRP. Got kinda tired of packing and unpacking, town to town, up and down the dial. Maybe you and me were never meant to be. Just maybe think of me once in a while. Up that highway, leaving you behind. Hardest thing I ever had to do. Broke my heart in two, but baby, pay no mind. The price for finding me was losing you. Memories help me hide my lonesome feeling, far away from you and feeling low. It's getting late, my friend, my love, I miss you so. Good care of you, I've gotta go. whatever became of me. I'm living on the air in Cincinnati, WKRP. Got kinda tired of packing and unpacking, town to town, up and down the dial. Maybe you and me were never meant to be. Just maybe think of me once in a while. I'm at WKRP in Cincinnati.